presented on Saturday, so like I did watch like a recap of their main trailers. Plus, I mean, it's fucking Ubisoft. There's nothing to really report on there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's Assassin's Creed Switzerland. That's the next one. More neutral than ever. Basically, like that's Ubisoft every year. We're making another Assassin's Creed game. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that time they're just like, we learned our lessons, guys. We're gonna take a break from Assassin's Creed. So they took a year off and then they started making them again.
Yep. Oh man. What did they announce?
Their main thing, they were talking about a new app. They were talking about what? One second. My damn headset. It likes to just like not know that I'm talking. It's like auto shutdown enable, and like the lady in my headset, it has like this Minnesota accent. It's kind of funny.
Huh?
So it's, but yeah, they were talking about like an Avatar game that they announced.
Hey,
That was
hey, Joe.
I didn't
Quick
want to
question.
interrupt him.
Oh.
Yes, we're live, Russell. You can relax.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Like you were gonna tell us.
I was.
Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, we can get into it later, but yeah, here we are, right?
Yeah. So,
Thanks for telling us.
How we all doing?
Better now that I know what's actually going on.
You need to stop.
Do you ever know what's going on, Russ?
I'm blissfully oblivious, apparently.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this banter is, it comes from a place of love.
This banter is brought to you by abject anger. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
So yeah.
Also, abject anger. Also, the best Donkey Kong level. It's all about the alliteration, you know.
Is that a real Donkey Kong level? I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I'm kidding, of course.
Well, I don't know, man. Tropical Freeze could have changed everything for all I know.
It's very true. Very true. But yeah, it's funny because it looks like this year, several of the big companies still have yet to even have their announcements. Like PlayStation's not doing theirs till July, aren't they?
PlayStation, yeah, Sony didn't attend E3 at all. They didn't attend last year. I think last year is the first year where they started not doing a show. But yeah, Joe, did you want to open up and say anything before we get into it? Like talk about the episode, or
yeah.
dive in?
So everybody, welcome back to Dialogue Options. This is Dialogue Options number 5, if you can believe it. We've had a total of 5 topics to talk about without doing any repeats. So there we go.
5 more than I thought we'd have.
So
next week we'll talk about Rome Total War Remastered again.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I can't wait to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's been burning in the front of my mind. Yeah, so.
Of course.
As you can tell by the title, we are just going to be doing a quick E3 2021 recap. So we're just going to be talking about stuff we saw, stuff that was announced, and, just our take on everything. So, but before we do that, let's start with our introductions. I'm joined from the left and right, Ace X-Wing 88 and Marcamune, as always. Russ and Mark, how we doing today, gentlemen?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. A week ago, I picked up the new Ratchet and Clank game.
How's that been?
Awesome.
It is fantastic. It looks amazing, and yeah, I mean, definitely the hype is real. It feels like a truly next gen game because they're able to do all this stuff with dimensional rifts and portals where that SSD comes into play there, and just like the load times are instant. So you go into this rift and boom, automatically you're in this new world. So
nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's the first time that they've made a new like original Ratchet and Clank game since the PS3. They only put one out on PS4, and it was a reboot of like the original game. So
okay,
yeah, I was excited for this one, and I'm enjoying it.
I remember seeing you play some of that in college. So
yeah, I've been playing since the beginning. I'm a huge Ratchet and Clank fan. I've been playing since the first one on PS2, and it's crazy because when they put the first one on the PS3, I remember thinking along with everyone else, well, like, wow, this looks like a Pixar movie, and now it looks twice as good. It's incredible.
that's cool. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Gotcha.
Nice. Russ, you still playing Skyrim?
Oh, yep, still playing Skyrim.
Uh,
I've been at it for a while. I've been just basically trudging, and I use the word trudging literally through like multiple dwarven ruins at this point because by the time about 5 minutes in, I'm already overweight with like
Oh,
stuff to
God.
make dwarven ingots with. So
There's a lot of heavy dwarven gear in those things.
yep, and I'm like, oh, what's this dwarven solid metal? 25 pounds, huh? All right, well, I'll take it with me. I'm sure I can make a few ingots out of it. So, next thing you know, I come out of there and I've got like 200 dwarven ingots at the end of it.
I always thought dwarven armor was cool, though. That gold armor, it's pretty
Oh, it's cool looking. Yeah. So,
I was
trying to
definitely rocking that for a while.
boost up the smithing skill, and that'll definitely help.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been partial to the elven stuff because my very first playthrough, I kind of like saw my first elven bow and I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks awesome. That's probably like the best shit in the game, and yeah, so
I still
It's
have
pretty similar. It's usually kind of gold. Like the elven stuff usually looks really ornate and
Mhm.
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I still have yet to like kind of pick out like a favorite looking armor. I mean, as it is right now, I would like the curved Nord armor better if it didn't have like all like the extra like hair parts to it instead of it actually being like a full like set of plate armor. So yeah, other than that, I mean it's not bad. That's what I've been using for my character mostly, but before that I was using some dwarven armor. So
Well,
it's been fun.
if you're looking for something that looks more like traditional plate armor, then the you know, plate armor would probably be good for you. I don't mean that
Definitely.
sarcastically. That's just what
No,
it's
no, I
called.
understand. Like that's actually I know that's a perk I have to actually like spec into to be able to create plate armor.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's on the light armor side of the tree, but it's still considered a heavy armor.
Yeah,
I like that
So-
ebony armor too.
Mhm.
I haven't
That always
seen
looks
it yet, so I'm
slick.
hoping to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's usually one of the higher tier ones.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it looks like the glass armor, but it's all black.
Looks like obsidian. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been spending a good bit of time in the game, but trudging through those dwarven ruins has been it's been a lot of time. Especially because by the end they're like, "Oh, it's like time for you to fight a centurion." I'm like, "Oh, these guys are pushovers after playing ESO." Well, not quite.
Yeah.
I've now successfully stealthed a bunch of centurions because like they're basically like a steam engine I've been hitting with arrows. So
Yeah,
if a
makes
steam engine
sense.
could turn on a dime and hit you with axes. So
Yeah, there's some tough guys.
Mm.
yeah, so it's been fun. It's been interesting because having played the game before up to this point and not having really encountered a whole bunch of that, this is definitely a different aesthetic and different thing than I was expecting. So
Mhm.
yeah, pretty cool. I guess I'm getting kind of close to getting towards Black Reach eventually. So there's
Alright.
like 5,000 paths that lead to there.
Seemingly, yeah.
Yep.
As many as you need. What have you been playing, Joe?
I've all this talk about Skyrim.
Ironically,
Yeah, all this talk about Skyrim kind of made me want to hop back into Skyrim and give it another go. So the other
you
day,
said you were doing the spell sword thing, right?
yeah, so I'm making
Cool.
good on just playing on as a spell sword. I'm breaking up the Breton rut and playing as a high elf. So I've always liked playing as a high elf, but it's been a really long time since I was one. That I think the last time I did a high elf character was on the Xbox 360 days. So yeah, I just
What's the perks that they come with?
they're
Usually
special.
magic for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it?
they get they start with an extra 50 magicka, and
Oh, nice.
their race ability is they get like super boosted magicka regeneration for 60 seconds.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all
That's
about
cool.
pumping out those spells real quick.
Yeah, mine's all about absorbing damage.
Mm.
So, it's fun.
Nice. Yeah, I almost had a great story to open the discussion up with. Oh man, I was 15 minutes away from getting a Series X this week.
Were you really?
Yeah, just a couple days ago, I saw in the news that GameStop was going to be restocking. So just on the off chance, at the end, before I left work that day, just a couple days ago, I decided to call around some local GameStops to see if they had any, and there's one nearby, about 15 minutes away, and they said they had one Series X left,
Oh, no.
and they were sold out, but some guy bought one. And he took it home, and his wife was mad at him for buying it, so she made him return it.
Oh, oh,
She
jeez.
wanted him to get a PS5.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe, but yeah. So I rushed over there, but by the time I got there, it was just it was too late. They
Oh,
had already
man.
sold it, but I was so close to getting it.
Didn't they have some sort of did Microsoft have like some sort of program that was meant to help people who already had an Xbox One get a Series X?
Maybe there was something like that. I think I recently heard today GameStop is actually rolling out something for their subscribers. If you're a subscriber to like GameStop's Power Up membership or whatever it's called now,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get like insider information on the console restocks.
Oh, okay.
So that's a
Now,
perk
you mean
as
I
well.
now actually have to like re-up that after all these years of deciding not to bother with it?
Well, I don't know how the timing works out, because for if you become a subscriber now, you might not have access. You might have had to have already had the subscription.
Oh,
I'm not
gotcha.
sure, but I haven't looked into the details.
I mean, I've had the account for years. I just haven't kept it active.
Yeah, same. I used to be a subscriber, but not for a while now.
I think most of it is because the kind of stuff they were offering really wasn't anything special.
Yeah, it was never too bad of a deal. I mean, you would get that subscription to Game Informer, which was nice, and you would usually get like a buy two get one free used game coupon, which I liked. I mean,
Hmm.
it made itself worthwhile, but yeah, I just kind of got away from them after a while.
Fair enough.
Mm.
Well, I mean, here's to hoping that maybe by like the time Halo actually comes out, that I'll be able to get one. So that would be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Honestly, before Battlefield 2042 comes out in October, I want to have one. If I don't get one in store, I'm gonna have to turn to eBay.
Oh yeah,
And then you'll
Scalper's
be
Paradise.
you'll be overpaying.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the
that's for sure.
unfortunate bit, because all these scalpers are really, hurting the market.
True. I mean,
Yeah,
scalpers tend to ruin everything, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
and I mean, like, is the lack of systems available due to that chip shortage, or is it because they're like,
Well,
they're just never prepared for it?
I hear it's a global semiconductor shortage right now, and it's affecting multiple industries, not just
The
gaming,
automotive
but
as well. Yeah.
yeah, automotive. I know they're getting hurt, so it's just all around, and just so happens it's hurting the game industry too, and making it tougher for these companies to churn out these consoles.
I don't know. I may have to turn to playing Halo Infinite on PC then.
Hey,
Oh,
Maybe, but just to disappoint Joe, I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna get it on Series X anyway.
you're gonna get it on 360? They make
On
it for that?
360. Yeah, yeah, man. They still make it for 360. It looks like trash, but it plays pretty good.
well, I don't know. Maybe that demo they showed last year could have run on 360, but
Oh, with Craig the Brute. Oh my god.
yeah, but yeah, E3. I'm glad we got E3 in some form this
Same.
year. I was happy to see game announcements in general. I always love getting that Christmas in June, all that game news, those announcements. So I'm glad we had it.
Mhm.
Not the most explosive E3 ever, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
I mean
agree.
it's kind of to be expected given the past year. But I enjoyed the show.
I honestly think every E3 that like look, it's the one where the entire gaming community on YouTube like goes absolutely insane with speculation. Um and like 70% of it, 80% of it never comes true anyway. So, I've kind of had to temper my expectations for E3 over the past years and just expect like, okay, there'll probably be like one or two big things and the rest will be smaller things for each of the companies. And going in with that mentality, I was definitely a lot more had my expectations met more than what I normally would. I think that was the issue in past years is that to be like these, big announcements every single year, but now it's basically become like there's one or two big games and a bunch of smaller stuff that not a whole lot of people really care about. So,
Yeah, or big games that you just see cinematics or teasers, and it's in the distant future.
Mhm.
exactly. So like I mean, I don't know if we want to. Joe, do you want to launch into the specific ones? Do you want me to start with Nintendo?
Well, Joe, what was your overview of what was shown? Were you happy with it, or
I'm
what do you
excited for the fridge.
think?
Oh Jesus!
Yep.
You can just now the cans that they showed in there. The cans they showed in there, was that actually like meant to be like something that they're also going to sell as well to use, or is it just for show? Because that seems slightly ridiculous to not only have an Xbox fridge, but to also have like Xbox cans.
I
So
think they were just placeholders. They were just probably in the concept art.
Mm, yeah.
still an
They
interesting
wanted, they
concept.
wanted to demonstrate that this fridge was capable of holding cans. In case
Okay,
you were wondering.
well that's a plus. At least there's that.
Hmm.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah.
other than that, to be honest, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. Um,
I am too.
and you were talking about your expectations being tempered. I don't know.
Mhm.
I kind of think back to the last E3 that really like knocked my socks off was E3 2015. I think it was when Bethesda announced Fallout 4, Witcher 3 was announced. All those really big announcements. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Metal Gear Solid 5 was also announced then too, or like it was just about to come out. So,
Okay. Was that the one with Moby Dick Studios announced Metal Gear Solid 5?
Oh
yeah.
God.
So,
Definitely not Kojima.
I don't know. Just like in comparison to that, I haven't really,
Well,
you know.
I mean, don't forget, Joe. I mean, like, 2015 was what, 4 years into that, 2 years into that console cycle, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
At that point, you're talking about games being announced for companies who had, a good bit of time, like almost a full development cycle's worth of time to actually develop something for that console. We've only had these consoles for what, a year so
Yeah,
far?
I mean,
And we've also
Yeah,
dealt
not
with
even.
like the slow rollout, the probably what I've seen to be the most smoothed over transition from one generation to another, at least for Microsoft, it
mhm.
looks like. So, I mean, I would not expect big things for each of the systems until a year or two from now.
Yeah, and I mean that's fair. I don't know. I expected something like a home run to be announced, and I didn't see that. Felt like it was a lot of little things that got announced, and nothing really too big that we weren't expecting. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to that fridge, man. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be so cool.
It'd be
Literally
a
by
good addition to
definition.
a game room.
Or you could just get like a regular fridge and not pay like 3 times the actual amount.
Yeah, I know.
Just slap an Xbox sticker on it,
Mm-hmm.
Where's the fun in that?
covered in flex tape. Keep it from getting damaged ever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I can see people being disappointed with this year's E3, but with everything that's been going on over the last year, it's tough to expect too much and
Yeah, and that's
too
fair.
many reveals.
That's
Yeah,
a fair.
but
That's a fair point. Yeah.
yeah, did you guys want to dive in any specific area or just?
Yeah, I actually Joe's had a little bit of an outline here, and I think one of the first ones he's got up there is besides games that we're
Russ, we
looking
don't
forward
talk
to.
about the outline.
Yeah, whatever.
There's no
Um,
outline. It doesn't exist.
yeah, so I figured we would jump into Nintendo's E3 or Nintendo's Direct, so to speak, and
All right.
this was one of those things where there had been a few rumors going in of like new hardware.
Yeah.
Seeing as Nintendo always does, like once their console hits about 4 or 5 years of life, they always have like an upgraded version coming out, just like they did with the 3DS and just like they did with um, the DS originally as well. And there were a lot of rumors that there was going to be a Switch Pro being shown. So
Yes.
like I think it would have like what, like a 60 FPS and a 4K ability
That's what
as an
was
upgrade.
being. Yeah, that's what people were thinking.
Yeah, so none of that ever got shown or talked about. Their deal with this year's direct was to showcase stuff that was actually coming out this year. And
Yeah, yeah. But to not to dismiss the next Switch hardware, though, I did read an interesting article that talked about Nintendo's strategy when announcing hardware,
mhm,
and it mentioned, I think the last time that they announced major hardware at an E3, I think it was actually for the Wii U,
mhm,
and the Wii U really flopped. And as I was reading the article, they kind of outlined the announcement time frames for a bunch of Nintendo's systems that
Mhm.
they've announced over the last 10 years or so. And they typically tend to announce big things like that in July or August.
That's a fair point.
Sometimes June, but it seems like July and August are like those are the sweet spot months for their announcements. So, there's still hope for that next Switch in the near
Oh,
future.
oh, absolutely. I mean, they had already had like the Switch Lite, having already been out for like a year or two as it was,
Mhm.
which was like the handheld only version of it. But I'm not entirely surprised because they really botched the Wii U rollout because there were a lot of people that like actually thought it was just an add-on to the Wii, rather than an actual individual system on its own. It also
Yeah.
didn't help that it was basically just like a slightly more capable Wii with a tablet controller.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
never owned a Wii U.
I did, but I only had about 4 or 5 games for it, which kind of shows what the deal was with the system itself.
Yeah,
Um,
you like Nintendo, so it's
yeah,
that's
I,
saying so.
I found it kind of underwhelming as a system, but it was nice to have access to being able to play like virtual console games just on the tablet controller. So like being able to play like Super Metroid on a tablet controller was kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously that's solved now that you have a Switch that can just play it on its own instead of having to be within range of the actual system. But I can understand why they didn't make a big show of announcing the software at E3. Announcing the hardware at E3 itself. So
Yeah.
it's really neither here nor there. But
Well, speaking of
um,
Metroid,
Yeah, I
oh
was just
yes,
thinking
yes,
that
that's
too.
exactly right. That's exactly right. That was one of the ones I did want to talk about because that was one of the ones they showed. Now, a lot of people were expecting maybe even some sort of word about Metroid Prime 4, which has been in development for a few years now,
mhm,
and it
they
was clear when they
cleared
were
things
talking.
up immediately that wasn't going to happen.
They did. When they said that they were going to be talking about stuff coming out this year, it was pretty much clear that okay, they're not going to show anything from Metroid Prime 4. Fair enough. And they even said like even though we're not going to be showing anything from Metroid Prime 4 this year, we have a new Metroid game to show. And I'm like, oh, here comes Metroid Federation Force again, which was just a slap in the face for like Metroid's 30th anniversary, as it were.
Okay.
But they showed a new 2D Metroid game developed by the same company who developed the remake of Samus 2, of Metroid 2: The Return of Samus, and it's really cool looking. Metroid Dread is the name of the game
Hmm.
Yeah.
itself, and it definitely it looks like Metroid Fusion, and it's actually a direct sequel to it. It's the last in like the 2D Metroid timeline, if you will. Metroid's
Yeah.
kind of weird in that like the Metroid Prime games are in between. Um, I believe they're in between like Metroid 2 and Super Metroid. They all take place in between there in some way, shape, or form.
All right.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I'm not a Metroid guy, so like I have very like next to no experience with that series.
well, see, that was the thing is that like I wasn't initially as a kid because I didn't really know much about the series until I played the first Super Smash Bros. I'm like, who's the person with the arm cannon?
Yeah.
And I come to think of it, that was kind of the same thing I had about Legend of Zelda. I didn't know what that series was until playing Super Smash Bros.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had
It
never
was a good
really.
marketing tool for Nintendo then.
It actually was because up to that point, really all I was playing was either like it was basically Super Mario or Star Fox. Basically, that's all I really knew about at the time. And so for Metroid, obviously, any 2D Metroid game has basically been chasing the Super Metroid high since 1993, 1994, whenever it came out. And part of that's because the game was really seen as like a pinnacle of that design style, with a few exceptions, basically. And all the 2D games have kind of been chasing that ever since. Metroid Fusion was a fantastic game in its own right, in comparison to the original, in comparison to Super Metroid, where that game, Super Metroid allowed you a lot more freedom to kind of sequence break. Fusion was a little bit more of a guided experience, but it was also on handheld, so it was meant to be something more like that. It was actually one of the first games for the Game Boy Advance when that first came out.
Yeah, I hear
Um,
good things about the 2D Game Boy Advance Metroid games. Joe, are you a fan of Metroid? Do you play
Uh,
them?
as far as I'm aware, I've never played a Metroid game, and the only reason why I even know of Samus is because of Smash. So,
mhm.
I don't really have too much to say about Metroid other than the game
Okay.
looks really pretty.
Well, I
So,
mean, if you're a fan of like the Metroidvania style of games, that's where the first half of the word comes from, obviously.
hmm yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit last week. I know
Mhm.
with Justin.
Yeah,
But
and that's the thing
yeah.
is that like it's a great game series. Fusion was a good game, and it actually came out the same day as Metroid Prime. So that was kind of an interesting like dual release between the two, all the way back in 2002, I think. It's a long time ago. So this particular game is a follow-up to Metroid Fusion, and that game kind of changed up the formula of it itself. Um, from what they've shown in Metroid Dread so far, the gameplay is pretty standard for a Metroid game. The only major new additions in terms of gameplay were things added from the remake of Metroid 2, which were things like the free aim in a 2D Metroid game, which was brand new for the one for
There's
the 3DS.
a counter, right?
There's a melee counter as well,
Yeah.
which actually became a really kind of integral part of how you would fight enemies in the
Seems
remake.
that way.
Yeah, you could fight them the traditional way, or you could wait for them to attack and hit them with a melee counter, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it seems I get the suspicion that the main mechanic in this Metroid Dread game is going to have to do with that robot, that robot that's chasing you and you can't
Yes.
kill it. So I know
Mhm.
with those games it's a lot about finding new equipment that allows you to progress. I could see a situation where you just can't get any further until you get that item that allows you to finally kill that robot and progress or something like that.
Absolutely, and this was actually something they started in Metroid Fusion. Not to go on too long about the story itself, but it takes place shortly after Super Metroid, but after Metroid 2, where Samus wipes out the rest of the Metroids on their home planet. And it turns out that the race the Chozo, the ancient race who made her power suit, essentially, created the Metroids to stop this bacterial parasite from spreading across the planet that they had. And that parasite they call the X infests Samus. So they find a cure for that uses DNA from the last Metroid.
He doesn't want to go too far into detail about the story of Metroid. He launches into a detailed explanation.
I'm getting there. Trust me on this. There's a reason I have to explain this.
Okay.
So they wind up infusing that Metroid's DNA into Samus's, which kills that parasite, but it also alters her DNA to make her like the Metroids and weak to ice. And one of the things that's important about that is because they actually had to cut away parts of her power suit that were too infected to really save. And in that game, the parasite actually winds up mimicking life, and it actually cobbles together the parts of her original power suit, and there's basically a parasite version of her chasing her around the station, trying to hunt her down, basically. And there are moments in the game where you wind up just being in the same room as this thing, and when you get there, all the music stops, and you can hear these really exaggerated footsteps, and it's outlined consistently that, hey, you literally have no fighting chance against this thing. It will kill you if it finds you.
Mhm.
And so there are several points in the game where you wind up just running up against it. Later on, you do wind up actually like running into it and being able to stop it momentarily and get away from it. And eventually you do beat it at the end of the game. But that sense of like, this thing could very well kill me very easily is where I see them going with this game.
Yeah, it seems like the direction that they're heading now. Yeah,
Sounds like Resident Evil Nemesis.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a stealthy type of thing, which is really kind of cool. That was one of the things that made Fusion kind of entertaining was that being chased dynamic to it. So
yes, so yeah, it seems like they're definitely building off that. Yeah, I'm excited for you Metroid fans who have been waiting for something like this.
Oh yeah.
What else from Nintendo caught your eye?
So there was a lot of smaller stuff throughout the majority of Nintendo's Direct, basically. So the biggest thing besides that, and this is one of the ones that I talked with one of our friends about as well, Danton, who was on here previously, Doc Rocker 91, was that they actually had a rather pitiful showing for Zelda's 35th anniversary.
Yeah,
And
some people seem to be excited about it. Some people, I know you guys seem to be kind of let down. I was gonna mention that the things that they unveiled for Zelda's anniversary.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate because a lot of people, and there was even some rumors out there that they were going to like remaster Ocarina of Time.
That'd be even a port of the 3DS to the Switch would have been cool. Really
yeah,
cool.
at least to have something where it's actually like on a console again.
Yeah.
Because the game, the remake of it, not even the remake, the remaster of it for the 3DS looks really good, but of course you're dealing with like a pixelated screen, so you have a certain limitation in definition. It would have been nice to have that, but they didn't even do that. Basically, the two things were like an HD remaster of Skyward Sword, hooray, and then a 35th anniversary Game and Watch thing that had the first Zelda, the second Zelda, and Link's Awakening. And
Don't forget
Joe, I know.
Vermin.
Oh yes, of course. I'm sorry. It also has a Zelda version of Vermin from the Game and Watch series. Um, so Joe, I'm not sure if you know exactly what it is, but one of the first things Nintendo did in terms of handheld stuff was they basically had a series of games called the Game and Watch, which essentially now I can't remember. I think all the original ones were they all dual screen, the original ones, or no?
I don't.
Um,
I don't know. I haven't looked too much into classic Game and Watch handheld. It's never been an interest of mine.
Gotcha. All right. So, I mean, Joe, if you've ever played Smash Bros. With us, there's that character, Mr. Game and Watch.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what it is. They were a series of like small handheld games,
Mhm.
but it also would tell you the time. So, this particular thing has like the first Zelda from the NES, the second Zelda, which you either like it or you don't. It depends. There's like no in between with that game.
You know what would be cool? If they actually did some sort of remaster or remake of Zelda 2, keep it side scroller, but
Mhm.
modernize it. Maybe even give it like the Link's Awakening remake look.
That would be nice. Actually, just to, do something that felt like, hey, we did something other than put the time behind a Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah, they could easily take Zelda 2 and make it turn it from the black sheep to like right in the spotlight. I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't done that yet.
I get the very funny feeling that part of the reason they haven't is because the majority of the effort has been all on Breath of the Wild 2. And I'm not entirely surprised by that because that was one thing I did want to talk about. Although before I get to that, because that was like the big marquee thing at the end of it, there was another announcement as well that they started out the direct with, which I
Yeah.
thought was actually going to be related to Zelda when I saw a unconscious Ganondorf getting chucked off a cliff into a volcano. Here it
Honestly,
turns out it was for Smash Bros.
yeah, that would be a great Zelda game in my opinion. You just play as freaking Kazuya Mishima from
Mhm.
Tekken. You're just going through there punching things in the face. I think that'd be fun.
And they showed that several times. It's already been a meme now for like two or 3 days at this point.
That was a great reveal. I don't have a Switch yet, but whenever I play Smash Bros with you guys, I'm definitely gonna be looking to play as Kazuya.
Gotcha. And the thing is, I never played a whole lot of Tekken. I know you played way more just by default than I ever have.
Yeah, I
So
mean compared to you, I've played a lot more, but I'm not a fighting game guy in any sense of the word, no.
fair enough.
But yeah, I had
Um,
2 and 3 on PS1.
it was kind of funny too because like first he like threw Ganondorf off the cliff, then he threw Captain Falcon off the cliff, then he tried to throw Kirby off the cliff. Next thing you know, here come the memes with like Mario throwing the penguin from Super Mario 64 off the cliff. If you
Yep.
could exactly, if you couldn't have seen that
I
coming,
sent that to
and you
you.
were, yeah, you did, and it took like less than a day's time for that to even be a thing, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm so glad for a game that is now 25 years old that somebody was like, let's just take this part where Mario can drop this baby penguin off the cliff and put it into this meme.
It
So
never went away.
that's exactly right. It never did go away. Um, so that was interesting to see, and it's kind of cool that they're still putting new stuff into Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Um,
Yeah, yeah. As far as the Zelda stuff goes, between Zelda and Pokemon, those would be my favorite Nintendo franchises. I'm not a huge Nintendo guy, which is why I don't own a Switch yet.
mhm.
But I do like Zelda, and I do need to play more Zeldas. So that Skyward Sword HD remaster is actually pretty appealing for me because I never played the original on the Wii,
I
and I want an excuse to like not play it with the Wii waggle
Yes,
controls.
I cannot overstate how much better and effective the Joy Cons are for the Switch in terms of motion control than the Wii Remote with the Wii Motion Plus
But
thing in the back of it.
it's not even the motion controls that I'm thinking about because they're putting a whole new control scheme in it so that you can control Link's sword with
With the
the
joystick, yep.
stick. So you don't even have to worry about those motion controls so much anymore. So that'd be the way for me to play it.
I will say this: Skyward Sword was an interesting experience. There were parts of the game that I felt, after watching Ego Raptor's sequelitis on A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, where he just downs on Skyward Sword the entire time. Um, Skyward Sword is kind of a mixed bag. There's some very good stuff, and there's some really cool aesthetic stuff in that game. Some of the gameplay was a little rough in certain aspects, but on other sides of it, there was some really cool kind of stuff to it. Like having the ability to control the sword 1-to-1 was pretty cool to begin with. But then there were spots where you're like, yeah, they're definitely just ham-fisting this, shoehorning this into the game. And there were some other spots that were pretty cool in that, like, there were spots when you got to a new region that you had to collect these, like, tears of light. And it was one of those type of things where as you're like running out going to get them, it was in like an astral plane and you'd be chased down by this thing that was again going to, you know, kill you in one hit if it got to you. And it was kind of like a pulse pounding type of thing to do that. So it was kind of cool. That was probably one of my favorite parts of that game.
Yeah, I know it gets a lot of flack. I've never played it, so whenever I do end up getting the Switch, that'll be something I'll have my eye on.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the Game and Watch, not something I'm personally interested in. And then
me neither.
they showed off some Breath of the Wild 2. I felt like it was it was pretty conservative. It was kind of a weak showing. They showed Link running around a little bit and flying through the air, but
This is the way
not a
most
whole lot.
Nintendo showings seem to be most of the time anymore. Even in past years, they're what they typically show for E3 is pretty reserved. And part of that's because I think they've been reluctant to show things off too far ahead of time because then it creates a whole bunch of flack if they don't have it ready to go soon enough.
Yeah, didn't they when they weren't they demoing, was it Skyward Sword? One of the Zeldas, I think, on stage at an E3, and like their controls were busted and it
Yeah.
was like out of sync and it wasn't working.
Yep, that was Skyward Sword. Yep,
Yeah,
you're exactly
Skyward
right.
Sword, yeah.
So, that type of thing has kind of gone away. Once Nintendo started doing the directs, all the big name type of things kind of went by the wayside in favor of a lot of smaller type of deals. Like one of the big things, and I say big things in quotation marks, but the way they treat it was like extra DLC for Hyrule Warriors 2 Age of Calamity, which is a Breath of the Wild prequel in the Dynasty Warriors style.
Yeah, Musuo. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's the genre.
I'm not sure if there's a particular name for it. I didn't know.
That is the
But,
name, yeah. I just don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
well, you would probably know better than I would.
Joe, what did you think about the Nintendo show?
Not much really. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really check out the Nintendo stuff because I'm not a Nintendo person.
He's too good for Nintendo now.
I'm not really big on Nintendo, so I honestly I can't be bothered with it. I mean, like I said, I've seen the Metroid announcement. Looks really pretty. Other than that,
No, I mean that's a good way to put it. I mean, you're either like if you grow up as a Nintendo person, then you kind of have some skin in the game in terms of the franchises. If you don't, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It doesn't really matter to you. I will say this though, for what they showed of Breath of the Wild 2, even though they didn't really show much in terms of, they did show a little bit of gameplay stuff, but it was more in a cinematic style. I will say this: the game looks more varied than the first Breath of the Wild in terms of different styles of gameplay.
Okay.
They have these parts of the land that are raised up into the sky itself, and I don't know if it's actually parts of the land down below or if it's actually stuff from above the clouds, a la Skyward Sword. But
I think
it
they're
looks
floating like sky worlds up there. It seems like they're gonna be on the ground and in the air. There's probably some stuff you can traverse in the air, and it stays there.
right. And this was actually, when Dante was on here and we had our talk about Breath of the Wild and some of its shortcomings, this was the thing I was alluding to that I was hoping that they would do for the second one, is that they would take the advantage of having extra added areas to the game and create maybe some larger style dungeons for the game itself. And they didn't really show a whole lot. They did show Ganondorf, so that's a plus.
They showed
that's-
about as much as they showed the first time around when they revealed it. It was
Yeah.
just they're just trying to get people, excited and showing
Keep
showing
interest
a
in
little
it.
bit more. Yeah, keep the interest going.
I mean, as we all knew, that was the game that everybody was going to be paying attention to Nintendo's Direct for anyway.
Yeah, well, there were some other games from their direct that caught my eye because even though I don't have the Switch yet, I do like to keep my eyes out and
What'd you
take a
see?
look at. I like to take a look at Nintendo and see for future reference. So like I like how they announced a new WarioWare game.
Oh yeah.
Those games are pretty fun. I remember playing the first one on GameCube and having a blast with that. They're weird, man, but
I know.
they're cool. I like that. And also Mario Golf Super Rush.
Oh yes, I forgot about Mario Golf. Yeah, that's right. Because the last one was on the 64. I think they didn't make another one after that,
They
did
made
they?
one on the GameCube. I think
Did
it was
they?
Toadstool
Okay.
Tour or something.
Oh yeah, they did. That's right.
Yeah, so um yeah, uh Mario Golf, I haven't gotten one since the 64, but I loved playing the one on 64 when I
Okay.
was, when I was growing up. And even today, I can't remember the last time I actually did the like a 9 or an 18 holes legit, but I
Mm-hmm.
still like to fire it up and do the mini golf
Okay.
like in Mario Golf 64. So
Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
cool. Yeah, it
No,
was
I was
cool
good.
seeing the Switch version get some attention.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I did forget about that. They also showed for that game some sort of like battle golf type of thing,
Yeah, yeah,
which
there's
looks
like
pretty
a
cool.
battle golf. There's a mode where it's like a speed golf mode where you just
Hmm.
kind of whack the ball forward and go chase your ball, and the goal is to just like get the ball in the hole before the other players, and you have these special abilities to help you. You can, I guess, mess with the other players to
Hmm.
prevent them from getting to their ball. So I like
I'm
that
I'm
because
all
I'm
in
not a
favor of turning the PGA Tour into that.
yeah I would never play like a legit simulation golf game, but
Hmm.
Mario Golf and that kind of stuff, anything in the same vein as Hot Shots or anything like that is always a good time.
Okay. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that because they showed that and they showed they showed a Mario Party thing too that actually had some
Yeah,
remaster maps from the original
I
Mario
think it's called
Party.
Superstars, Mario
Yes,
Party
that was it.
Superstars, and yeah, it's a
Hmm.
big collection of mini games from the past, even some of the levels too, like Peach's birthday cake
I
from the
saw that. Yep.
64. Yeah, I just I can't wait to play that in HD graphics and be completely pissed off when I go to that flower and be the Bowser instead of
Oh
Toad.
my god, they did show that too, and I'm like, oh
Yeah,
man, this is
it's
starting to this is starting to make my the middle of my hand hurt reflexively.
oh yeah, you're gonna end up with a Mario Party stigmata, as I call it.
Fantastic. Oh my god.
The thing that and one thing that caught my eye though from the direct, the last thing that I would say that I want to mention is they announced Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp.
I never played them, but I
I
heard they
n-
were pretty good.
I never did either, and they were on Game Boy Advance, and I guess they're
Hmm.
taking those two games from the GBA, combining them, and it's a reboot, and they're putting it on the Switch, and the graphics look great. I watched the Nintendo Treehouse where they played it for a half an hour, so I got to see the gameplay, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like a tactical RPG with like a military
Yeah, I know you're a fan of
theme.
those tactical RPGs too.
Yeah. So that's I've been hearing about those games on the GBA, and I always hear they're good. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity to dive into that series. It looks interesting.
Yeah, and you know, and that's the kind of stuff I was talking about. Like they showed some smaller stuff, but at the same time, I think Nintendo's approach to it is like we'll show a bunch of different genre things that aren't the big ticket items, but may appeal to some people as well. Because I mean, not everybody's going to be going nuts about tactical RPGs, but there's definitely some people who really enjoy playing them.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a small subsection of people out there who are really excited who used to play the hell out of those games when the GBA was in season,
Yeah.
and still have a lot of love for that. So
Oh
it's
my
it's
god,
good,
that
especially
system
for
was
people.
great.
Yeah, especially for people like myself. I've never played them, but I hear good things about those games. This would be a really good opportunity for me to jump in
Agreed.
whenever I do get a Switch.
Agreed. I could say myself personally for Nintendo, I was hoping to see them show a little bit more about either the remakes of Diamond and Pearl, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Unfortunately, they didn't show much about that, but Pokemon tends to handle things on its own most of the time anyway.
Mm,
And by that same token, since it's not coming out this year, I didn't really expect them to show much about Legends Arceus. Sorry,
uh,
Arceus. I know they changed the
oh, is it
pronunciation of that years ago.
Arceus?
Yeah, it used to be Arceus, but
I thought it was
apparently that doesn't sound too great when it comes time for people who actually pronounce certain words in that sense.
That's
Um,
true.
so yeah, so now it's Arceus.
Pokemon,
Um,
up your Arceus.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
basically what they're trying to prevent from
yeah.
happening.
Yeah, that was pretty much the Nintendo conference. So, do you have
What
anything
about
else to
the
say about it?
that Mario plus Rabbids game or whatever?
Oh
Uh,
yes, I forgot about
oh
that.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
my girlfriend, I was scrolling through Facebook and just trying to like check up on like the Nintendo stuff, and my
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend saw the, I guess it was the announcement trailer, and she's just
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh my God, are they remaking Mario Galaxy, my favorite game of all time?" And I was just like, "No, unfortunately, no, it's not that."
Well, the funny part is that
They
like
also showed that during the Ubisoft conference. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
because the rabbits thing are actually from
Yeah,
a
it's
Ubisoft franchise, right?
Ubisoft. Yeah, that's their IP.
Didn't they come? Didn't the rabbits come from another Ubisoft franchise? They weren't their own thing first.
It was like Raving Rabbids or something like that.
Yeah.
I've
It,
never played any of those or really looked into any of them. This
mhm.
is not something that's in my wheelhouse.
No, I gotcha. The funny part is that from what I gathered, the first one, the Mario versus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, was actually kind of like a sleeper early hit on the Switch.
It must
And
have been successful if they're keeping them going.
yeah, and fun fact, the person who did the music for it was none other than the legendary Grant Kirkhope.
Oh, from Rare.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well, not
okay.
anymore, but yeah.
Well, the big Rare games like
Oh yeah.
Donkey Kong and Banjo, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. So that man is a legendary
You worked on a little
legendary name.
GoldenEye too.
He worked on what?
You worked on a little GoldenEye too for N64.
He did. Yeah, that's right. I remember hearing him seeing him in the credits for that as well. And that man is a legend in the video game music community. And just because of like how like ingenious like the Banjo-Kazooie soundtracks are, they're really quite good. Like when you first hear them, you're like, all right, this is kind of okay. And the more you listen to it, like this is actually really very good.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure for someone like yourself and our good friend Dan, with a more musical ear, you hear more.
well, I do remember Dan actually had a chance to talk with him one time, which was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that's I'm hoping that he'll be composing for the second game as well, because he'll get a chance to take on some more of the themes, even ones from like Super Mario Galaxy, because I think they're putting stuff in some of the setting of that as well, and see what he
Seems
does.
like it. Seems outer space and space travel.
Yeah, and I think they're having like a rapid version of Rosalina anyway, so that
Yeah, I saw.
definitely.
Well, maybe they'll end up making a Rabbids fan out of you yet. But
We'll see.
other than that, I'm kind of tapped out on Nintendo's announcements.
Yeah, that pretty much covers the majority of it. I think we actually dug down further than I probably intended to, but thank you for bringing that up with the golf
Oh, of
and
course, yeah.
yeah, because I almost forgot about that because that was actually a pretty big deal considering they hadn't made one in like 20 years.
Yeah, it's kind of a theme, and they were also talking about like Super Monkey Ball, a collection because it's
Mm-hmm.
like the 20th anniversary. So, you know, as you get older, you really see the wheels are turning. You really see Nintendo's strategy. It's like, okay, 20 years old, let's cash in on that nostalgia.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and sometimes it works, and other times it's like, yeah, I played this game once, I'm good. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, anyway, we could. Why don't we move on to? Why don't we talk about Capcom's show, which I
that
think
sounds good.
it was a controversial one, but I'm sure it's one that Joe wants to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple of things that I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are revolving around Resident Evil. Well, both of them are revolving around Resident Evil, and then there's a couple other things that I want to touch on. But so the whole RE-verse thing is, it's coming out. I'm not a fan of these multiplayer games that Capcom is trying to push out with Resident Evil,
It
but
looks pretty bad. I'll probably download it since I already have it through Village, but it looks
yeah,
pretty bad.
yeah, I don't understand why they're trying to get in on this multiplayer hype. Just just give us what we've been demanding for the last, I don't know, say 15 years. Remaster, re-release Outbreak, the Outbreak titles, and you'll
Oh,
make
that'd be
everyone
cool.
happy. Yeah, because
You
those
could
were
even make that co-op. You could find a way to make that a co-op experience, trying
well,
to survive with a group of friends.
well, yeah. I mean, those I keep saying this to Russ all the time. The Outbreak games were before their time, you know, like because they were intended to be online multiplayer games where you cooperatively play through the scenarios with your friends, and but
That is
unfortunately,
true. I played the first one, of course, offline.
yeah, and unfortunately, when they came out on the PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Network was just online gaming just wasn't really much of a thing when it came out. I mean, sure there were some games with online capabilities, but it was just
No, it was
like
an oddity.
Yeah, so just Capcom, stop. Stop. Get help. Yeah, so
Stop it. Get some
There's so
help.
many things they could have done to please fans, aside from the reverse to celebrate the history. Like, yeah, you give us Outbreak, either a new one
mhm.
or a touched up one, or you know revisit Code Veronica.
Yeah, yes,
A bunch
please.
of options.
Uh yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like hesitant to see what they do with Code Veronica with just how bad I badly or poorly received 3 remake was. I mean, I enjoyed 3
Oh,
remake for what it was, but I can understand why people felt very underwhelmed by it. Um
oh yeah,
yeah.
that's gonna go down as one of my greatest disappointments in gaming.
Yeah. So that I if they do it like they did with 2 remake, we'll be fine, but yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, Ariverse, not loving it. Don't know why it's happening. No one asked for it. It looks terrible. It'll probably, be another flash in a pan, just like what's the other one that they released when 3 came out? It was called.
I'm trying
Oh,
to
I don't
think.
know.
Was it the one where there's like the mastermind,
Yeah, it was like the 4 versus 1
that like asymmetrical
yeah.
multiplayer one?
What is it called here? Let me
Yeah,
open
was
up
it called like Resistance or something?
Yeah, Resistance. Yeah.
RE.
That shows you how forgettable it was.
Yeah, well, dude, it came with Resident Evil 3 and
I heard it was busted.
I haven't even installed it. I got it for free and I haven't installed it. I haven't played it.
It tells you all you need to know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Another thing that everybody forgets about is like years ago they made that game. I think it was digital only, and it was like online only. It was called like Umbrella Core or something.
mm, yeah,
Do you remember that?
yeah. So,
Yeah. Oh my god. They again they wanted it to be this big multiplayer thing, and I
yeah,
remember I remember trying to watch a review of it to actually give it a chance and see what the game was about. And the person playing in the review actually couldn't review it because there weren't enough people playing online.
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
That's
Well, then.
that's how poor that game turned out,
yeah.
and also why you don't even remember it
Yeah. It's
unless you're a big fan.
a horrendous looking game. Yeah, there really wasn't too much there as far as like actual game. It was basically just shoehorned in little missions to complete, and it was a main focus was on the multiplayer stuff. But like you said, Mark, there was nobody playing the multiplayer, so it was just a big old flop.
Yeah,
Um,
Capcom, what are you doing?
yeah,
Wasn't
and
there like a Monster Hunter title that they talked about?
Yeah, they were talking about Monster Hunter Rise. I think some DLC coming to the game. That Monster Hunter Rise, I think, came out maybe last year for the Switch.
Okay.
And then they also spent time talking about Monster Hunter Stories 2, which seems like a Monster Hunter RPG with Pokemon elements.
Ooh, okay. Well, that might actually interest me then.
Yeah, it's actually, I was thinking about it as I was watching. I was just like, okay, if this was last week's episode of the podcast, this might be on the list of games I would recommend to Russ, because I think the first one came out on 3DS, so you could actually pick it up now.
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's always kind of helpful too, because I always get sucked into things that are Pokemon like.
Yeah, so that's one to look into for you.
mhm.
I'll look it
Okay.
up right now. But Joe, did you have anything else to add on that
Yeah.
show?
So I don't know if they announced anything concrete, but they had said that they were planning on putting out DLC for Village.
It was kind of funny. It's like we just started working on this. It's like DLC for RE Village was like homework, and you're a kid in homeroom and your homework is due first period and you're like, oh crap, I have to do this homework. Okay, I'm working on it.
Mhm.
It's coming.
Yeah, it was
No,
it,
it's
it
not
was
here.
almost as if it was like an afterthought. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, DLC's coming.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
So I actually have this article open right now. It's talking about 5 possibilities. It's on cbr.com. I'll have the link in the description so you can check it out if you'd like. But it's talking
Okay.
about like, potentially and all of this is speculation, of course. So don't take my word or this, website's word for it. So they have things listed like a cooperative mercenaries mode, which I'd be interested in. I mean, Resident Evil 5 had a cooperative mercenaries mode, and I think 6 did too, from what I remember, but I never really played it online, so I don't know. and then like standalone experiences, kind of like they had with the band footage in 7, which
Oh yeah,
was
the
kind of
DLC with for 7, yeah,
yeah,
was
it was
interesting.
hit or miss. I mean, I really liked the 21, the blackjack mini game that they released with it. Yeah. So Russell,
That was a goofy one.
yeah, Russ. So
But
it was a DLC where you played blackjack, but every time you lost a hand, you lost a finger. It was great.
Yeah,
what is this like the Jamie Lannister simulator?
well, but it wasn't straight up blackjack because you could also unlock like power ups to make yourself like give yourself an
Oh, extra
edge in the
fingers.
game.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, no, it was like expand your card limit from 21 to 26, or
Wow.
make your opponent discard a card, or
Here, I thought you were gonna tell me that like when you win, you basically become like the bad guy from the Princess Bride, and you get like a sixth finger on your right hand.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
no, it's
That'd be
basically
cool.
just blackjack meets Saw. It was
That
pretty
would have.
fun.
That's exactly how you would
I'd like to
describe
play a
it.
little game. It's called blackjack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny though. I mean, it would be funny if you grew like a sixth finger and it was like this black molded finger on your hand. That'd be goofy if that was
Oh
one of
my
them.
god.
But it'd be fitting given like just the craziness of that. But
Hmm.
yeah, it had some interesting DLC. There's that one where you fought waves of enemies until like daybreak or something.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah.
cool. The most difficult one, oh my god, it was called Ethan Must Die.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That
Yeah.
that was insanely hard to do. Like,
Well, yeah, because you basically die if anything brushes you the wrong way.
yeah, you pretty much like something taps into you in the hallway and like bumps your shoulder and you're dead.
Yeah.
Oh god.
That was a tough challenge, but
Yeah,
I think
I had
what's
to
that?
watch a walkthrough of how to complete that so I could get the achievement on Steam.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
it was nerve wracking. I remember getting to that final house when you're fighting. What's her name? Agatha. What's her name? The woman,
Oh,
the mother of
Marguerite.
the
You
family.
fight Marguerite.
Oh, Marguerite. Okay, I
Hmm.
don't know where I was getting Agatha from.
Agatha was from Pokemon. She had ghosts. Does that count?
No, not at all. Moving on. But I remember being in the house where I was fighting her. My heart was pounding, taking cover behind stuff as she's crawling around, and
Oh my god.
I managed to kill her on the first time that I got to her house. But that was intense.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but definitely some interesting DLC there. My favorite one was probably the puzzle when you start out in bed.
Oh, yeah, where you had to like make sure the room looked exactly the same whenever Marguerite would come in, or
Yeah,
otherwise she'll like
that was really cool.
vomit bugs onto you. Yeah.
Yeah, she vomits the bugs onto you like she's like Lady D's daughter or something.
Mhm.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then
I
there's
did look it up though. Just 1 second. I
Mhm.
did look it up, Russ. Monster Hunter Stories. Yeah, the original one did come out on 3DS, and it has a
Mhm.
Metascore of 79. So if you're interested, there it is.
Gotcha. Yeah. The funny part is that like I always did kind of have a thing for games that were not just it wasn't just Pokemon. I always liked like the first few Digimon World games were actually pretty good.
Hmm.
The second one's my favorite, so I have a bit of a soft spot for games like that.
Yeah, watch the footage.
Okay,
What were you saying, Joe?
definitely.
No, and one last one that I want to touch on with this Village DLC. The last one that they have listed on here is a Rose-centric campaign, which I kind of assumed was what they were going to be doing, because at the end of the game it's like, oh, the father's story is complete, and then it has like the end credit cutscene. Spoilers, by the way, of Rose visiting Ethan's grave. So I mean,
Mhm.
I would have to assume it. If anything, the DLC is going to have something to do with Rose. So
Oh, that's true. That's actually a good point. They could very well do a DLC about her. When I saw that, I just kind of assumed that RE9 was gonna star her or focus on her.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, because that would be a really big time jump, because I think it was like 15 years after the events of Resident Evil 8 where Rose is visiting Ethan. So I don't know. That
Yeah, you would see.
there's a
You'd
lot
see a
of
Chris Redfield with some salt and pepper hair.
yeah, he'll easily be in his 70s at that point of the game. So I don't know.
Yeah, but does mold age? though?
No, Chris isn't mold.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Ethan.
No,
No,
Ethan.
no.
Ethan.
My bad.
Spoiler alert. Ethan dies at the end of Resident Evil 8. So
What is somebody hit him with like mold control spray or something?
no.
He gets nuked.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, he nukes himself. But
All right then.
yeah, no. I just feel like RE9, it would behoove them to tell stories in between that point with Rose where she's, you know, all grown up. So because that's a big chunk of time that we're kind of missing.
Yeah.
I know Chris kind of like talks about it in passing in the end cutscene where he's like, "Oh, well, you know, redirect us to BSAA Europe." So maybe
Yeah, apparently the BSAA is a bunch of dicks now.
yeah. So
But it would be kind of interesting though to see that flash forward and see the characters we know return as older. That's been a theme in games, you know. Like first, you know, you had like Solid Snake. He got older in Metal Gear Solid 4, and then you have like Kratos.
mm-hmm.
He's gotten older in the God of War reboots. So funny to see that.
I think it can definitely work. I mean, the last God of War was highly acclaimed. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like you can't do something where a character gets older. It just has to be handled without being all like, you know, constantly referential and Easter eggy, you know.
For sure, yeah. There's nothing stopping people from doing it. I plan on playing a God of War game after I'm done with Ratchet and Clank.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, was there anything else to Capcom's thing? I saw something about Street Fighter and Ace Attorney.
Yeah,
They talked a lot
Chronicles.
about esports and Ace Attorney, which are two things that don't resonate with me.
yeah. I mean, yeah. The Ace Attorney was the last one that I wanted to talk about. So I'm a big fan of the Ace Attorney series. I've played all of them. I played. You know,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I played Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney 1, 2, and 3. I actually bought them on my Wii when they were
Nice.
released on the Wii, and then my friend gave me his copy of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. So yeah, I'm kind of low key looking forward to seeing more about
That's interesting. You're this low key undercover fan of Ace Attorney. I actually don't know anyone who plays the series. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
no, I'm kind of looking forward to it, seeing what happens with it. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
Okay, cool. So that was good news for you.
And I think there was something about like Capcom Pro Sports or Capcom Pro Tour, something to that extent, something to do with Street Fighter, I think.
Something like that. I don't know. I'm never gonna be a competitive Street Fighter player myself.
Yeah, it's funny too because like there's like the competitive scene around that. There's obviously the competitive scene around Smash Bros, but it's typically melee most of the time. It's like it's like way far and beyond my capabilities personally. So I'm not even going to pretend to have any pretensions of ever getting involved with something like that, you know?
No, sir. But yeah, that was pretty much it for Capcom. I mean, there
Gotcha.
was also the Square Enix conference.
I didn't see anything about that. What'd they show?
You know, first of all, they didn't show any information about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
That answers my only question then.
Yeah, they didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about Final Fantasy 16. They didn't talk about Forspoken, which I believe was revealed last year as Project Athia. So I think people were kind of hoping for a little bit more information about that. But they did, you know, they showed some other stuff. It wasn't nothing too crazy on the Final Fantasy side per se. But I think it was the Square Enix conference where they opened up talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Did you guys see the trailer for that or any of the gameplay?
I didn't, but I read about it. But people are kind of like, well, we didn't really ask for this, but okay, thanks, I guess.
Well, it's funny because I do like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not a big superhero guy in general, but that stuff I do like. I enjoyed the movies. I'm looking forward to the third one. And they announced this game out of nowhere. And personally, I would say that it was my game of the show. It was my biggest surprise. just because I had no idea that they are making this. When it first popped up on the screen, I thought that they were going to show us some new expansion for the Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a full-fledged Guardians of the Galaxy game, and it looks incredible. And they showcased it for like 20 minutes. They
Wow.
spent about the first 20 minutes of their conference talking about that game. There were a couple points where I was thinking, okay, they're gonna stop talking about it now, and then they just kept going and they kept showing more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it looks awesome though. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. It definitely looks cool, that the stuff they were showing. I like how the gameplay looks. Seems like you'll be going to cool worlds, and the banter with the team seems very on brand. So that's why it was kind of my game of the show, and it was my biggest surprise there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to go back and check that one out then, because I kind of when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, it's probably related to Marvel Avengers, and that didn't.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. So it's its
Yeah.
own full-fledged thing. So, and it seems pretty cool. And the other thing that made it a special announcement is that it's coming out later this year. So
Oh, nice.
Mm.
it's so often that you see these cool games get announced and they're not going to come out for a year or two,
I
or
think a
just
lot of
like a
companies have
window.
like started to not do that anymore, to announce them too far ahead of time because all they get is a bunch of flack for not having it ready like within a year's time.
Yeah, yeah. So who knows if Square Enix is gonna keep up with that trend. It kind of begs the question: how long are we gonna actually have to wait for FF7 Remake Part 2, FF16?
What's the next console after the Series X and the PS5?
Yeah, right. The PS5, it's going to be succeeded by the PS6, and the Xbox Series XS is going to be succeeded by something with an even worse name.
Okay.
So,
They'll have the second part of that Final Fantasy VII remake out in time for the 30th anniversary of the original game.
man, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
know. My my heart hurts thinking like, oh my god, it'll have been 90 years since that game came out in like 5 or 6 years time.
Yeah, I mean
And they're
it's
still remaking it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like by the time that like the whole remake is completed, they're gonna have to remake the first part of it again. It's gonna be too outdated.
Now in
It's just
Oh
gonna be
8K
a
god.
cycle of Final
graphics.
Fantasy VII remakes.
Oh my god. Final Fantasy VII remake reboot.
Yeah,
Oh
so
man.
it sucks waiting for these games, but you just you have to wait for it. If whatever, they'll have to take their time with it if they need to. I do have to say that they did an incredible job with part one. So if I have to wait a while for the next part, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, what choice do we have?
yeah, well, yeah, they were also talking about this game called Babylon's Fall, which I think it's developed by Platinum Games, the guys
Oh,
who
nice.
are known for action games like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And it seems interesting. Like it's a dungeon crawler. You can do four-player co-op.
Okay.
I don't really know what else to say about it besides that. It's an action RPG. You can play with friends, or I don't know if it's an RPG, but it's definitely an action game. You can play with friends, and it'd be something I might be interested in playing when it comes out.
Well, see, that's always fun because at least, it's something you can play when you've been playing against people online and your head hurts from hitting it against a concrete wall because of
Yeah,
what you've been
that's
dealing with. So it's like, let's play something that is just us versus the computer so I don't get more of a concussion than what I already have.
yeah. Personally, I prefer kind of playing online co-op games over the online competitive multiplayer games. But of course, it's tough to get an entire play group on the same page and actually play
True.
something like that.
Well, I think the last time we did as a group, or one of the ones we spent the most time on as a group with that was it Diablo 3? I believe it was.
We did that, but I mean, last year we were playing
Oh, Fallout.
Borderlands.
Well, we were playing Borderlands. I meant oh, yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, we spent a good bit of time with Diablo. We spent a good bit of time with Borderlands. And speaking of Diablo, aren't they remaking Diablo 2?
Yeah, it's a remaster, and I've never played Diablo 2, but if you're a longtime fan, they actually let you transfer your save to this game, which is pretty cool. So
Hmm.
that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. And they showed that a little bit at the Xbox Bethesda showcase.
Mm-hmm.
They just they showed gameplay, nothing special. But that comes out September.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty close.
Yeah, it's close. It's definitely one that I'm interested in picking up. I never played Diablo 2. I always hear great things. Apparently, it's a fantastic game, and from what I hear, Diablo 3, even though I enjoyed it, it didn't really, it wasn't one of my all-time greats. And I hear that Diablo 3 was kind of watered down compared to the second game. So I'm really looking forward to giving that a try.
Yeah, to my understanding, the second one was kind of like the gold standard for those type of games for a long time.
So I hear.
Because I think it came out in the late '90s, didn't it, or early 2000s?
It might have come out right on at 2000. It was a long time ago.
Gotcha. Well, it'd be nice to finally get a chance to play it. But I mean, did you guys want to transfer over to talking about like Xbox and Bethesda?
Well, there is still more to touch on with the Square Enix.
Oh,
show.
absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they had this one of those face palm reveals where right after they got done with I think it was right after they got done with their 20 minutes that they talked about Guardians of the Galaxy, they start talking about Final Fantasy 1 through 6. And they say that they're going to do some sort of remaster, and like they're flashing screenshots on front of the screen. They're flashing all the logos for Final Fantasies 1 through 6 on the screen. They're playing the main theme song for the series as a whole, and it's all big and epic, and you expect that after that they're going to show you something really cool. Like many people, I expected them to show us something like the original first 6 Final Fantasy games in the style of Octopath Traveler, something cool like that.
That'd be cool.
But no, they cut the theme music off. They show a black screen saying that they're remastering these 6 games for Steam and mobile. Not even consoles.
Oh my god.
Oof.
Well, just way to like get people hyped up and then just drop them in the most jarring way possible.
Yeah, so that was disappointing. And after that, they did spend a little bit of time talking about future mobile games, either updates to current ones. Like they mentioned that Final Fantasy VII spin-off. It's called like the First Soldier. It's a battle royale for mobile. Just like stuff that if you're a long time fan, you probably don't care about it. And I don't know, like, do you guys think Square Enix is too focused on mobile? Because it seems like that's where they get a lot of revenue from, and they're focusing some significant energy on there. I think
it's one of those type of things that is like, and we talked about this in the monetization episode with EA. It is one of those things where it is a kind of a dark pit for a developer to fall into, because it's kind of like it prints money. But it's a very seedy kind of thing to do. And I think when you wind up having a development company spending more time on mobile games than actually bothering to make like either remakes of previous games that look good or new games, you wind up having a lot of people who are fans of it kind of getting this feeling of, oh, great, not another mobile game. Can't they actually do something like worthwhile? And
to make some, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be FF7 Remake Part 2 or FF16. They can do some spin-off. Just put the resources there,
Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered,
or like another Cerberus style Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame too, because all it really feels like is I mean, yes, I get it. It's a development company and it's a video game company. They're out there to make money by making games, but it feels like all they're trying to do is shove their hand into your pocket and
they
not
really
even give you anything worthwhile.
The player base, because you have these hardcore fans who are used to console RPGs, and then you see a company gravitate more towards mobile and push that kind of stuff. It's tough to see. Yeah, they're going to bring in even more customers than they had before, but then those longtime fans that really built the company into what it is today are left behind.
Well, I think for some reason those companies get the idea that, like, well, no matter what we do, as long as we have it in the Final Fantasy style, it'll sell like hotcakes. And the thing is that all you're doing is you're fracturing your fan base. You're basically, I know I'm gonna bring up the Star Wars sequels again. Here I go. You're doing to the Star Wars fan base what those sequels did to the fan base itself, and you're basically making people feel ambivalent about something they actually really enjoyed before. And once you go down that path, every time something big is announced, even the hardcore fans are going to get super skeptical about it, because that trust has been broken.
Yeah, this is all foreshadowing for a future podcast about Star Wars.
Next thing you know, they're going to have, like, the Temple Run version of the Chocobo race. So
You know what? Don't even put that onto the internet, Russ, because they will do that next. It'll be an endless runner, yeah, with chocobos. Why hasn't that been made yet? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you could pay $5 to wind up, breeding a few chocobos to get better stats. So there you go.
Stop.
That's an idea. Square Enix, pay me the
Russell,
money.
stop. Yeah, but
But-
I mean,
Me Square Enix.
as far as like Final Fantasy mobile games go, I mean, to date, I think they've got like 2 or 3 mobile games out there already, and I think they're both kind of like those like Raid Shadow Legends style games where you like just build teams and just fight enemies and complete dungeons. So I mean, it's I couldn't be bothered with these mobile games, like because they're just I don't know. As mobile games are just games you play while you're taking a poop. I don't know.
Next thing up, Final Fantasy X Laughing Simulator, $5.99.
It's a rhythm game. You have to tap the screen and rhythm with the laugh. Yeah.
Ha ha
Fun
ha
fact,
ha
it has
ha.
backwards compatibility to the Donkey Konga bongos.
Oh, speaking of
That'd be
rhythm games,
wild.
I know it's not related to Square Enix at all, but since we're on the topic, Rocksmith is releasing. I saw
I
Rocksmith.
saw something about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of like out of left field, and maybe I'll actually learn how to play guitar like decently.
Well,
the one instrument I don't play.
it is subscription based, but from
Okay.
what I've seen, it is basically just taking what they did with the original release of the game and just making it a little bit better from what I've heard.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, keep your
I would
eye
love
on
to see
it.
like if it was a subscription that maybe they have like a poll for the fan base of songs to actually add to it.
Oh
over
yeah,
time.
apparently they're like massively expanding their license base for songs. So
That's cool though.
yeah, I mean, where it
Like,
actually
I
teaches
actually
you how to
like
play
that
the
because,
music,
like,
yeah.
That's the thing is because after Guitar Hero and Rock Band, seeing something like Rocksmith was actually like somebody's actually going to teach people how to legitimately actually play guitar. That's really cool. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it was definitely a good idea.
Yeah, and I would love to see something like that take off. But as we all know, if you have to put time into it and it feels too much like work, people aren't going to want to stick with it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, I guess you're going back to playing pop punk all the time.
Yeah, whatever.
But back to Square Enix though, their
Yeah.
I mentioned about pooling their resources into Final Fantasy spin-offs, and the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing is they did announce one. It's called Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. And yeah, so it's being worked on by Team Ninja, and apparently it's in the same vein as like a Souls game. It's like a Souls like I've heard.
Okay.
Maybe it has like a similar system with checkpoints and currency, something like that. But they showed that off, and it's one of those things that like instantly became a meme.
Oh
Because
no.
it's supposed to take place in the world of the very first Final Fantasy game,
Mm-hmm.
and you have this team of 3 characters showing up, and they're trying to kill chaos. That's the whole thing. Like they're going after chaos. They gotta kill chaos, and then like this main character dude shows up looking like freaking what's his name from Fast and the Furious, the actor.
Vin Diesel.
No, the other guy.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker. Yeah, this
Oh,
guy looks
God.
like Paul Walker wearing like a Hanes sleepwear T-shirt,
Oh no.
and like the internet immediately started dunking on this
Oh,
design. How like the 2 guys at his side have this typical looking fantasy armor, and he comes in with his freaking Henley shirt. Like
Oh my God.
he just looks like a dumbass. But
What's up,
yeah, and
bros?
then they
my God.
they released a demo right after that, but the demo was broken as soon as they released it. It works now. It's a limited time demo, but I watched a review of the demo. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it myself, but I did watch a review, and they said it seemed pretty mediocre, like with the environments and the gameplay and the characters and all that. The review I watched wasn't impressed, so I don't know how much faith to have in this game, but we'll see.
I think it's those words that like just probably instill more disappointment and like oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Disenfranchisement in my heart when it comes time for like any games coming out from developers. Yeah, it's just kind of mediocre. I'm like, oh, not another. There's tons of mediocre games, and they exist. That's it. That's all they do. They exist. So I mean, even something like that, that's a shame to hear. Like you could really do something cool with like, something in the world of like the first Final Fantasy game, which is what, like 33 years old now, something like that, 32 years old, Mark.
Something like that. It was late 80s.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something absolutely fantastic, and they turn into Paul Walker Simulator.
Yeah, it kind of looks sort of generic. I'll have to play the demo or something, or just wait to really make a final judgment on it, because I don't know when this game is actually gonna be released. But I mean, at least they're trying to do something a little different. Not that making a Souls-like game is different nowadays, but we'll see how it goes.
Next game up, Professional Blitzball 2021.
I would buy that game day one.
I know you would.
I would buy Blitzball 2K22 immediately. I'd buy that every year. I'd buy Blitzball.
That would actually be kind of cool if they did something like that, and it's a shame that they didn't.
Collector's editions.
Oh my
Editions,
God.
Russ, mind you.
I know.
Do it, EA. I'll buy the ultimate team pack where I can have Jacked on my team or some shit.
My God. Fantastic.
Let me throw $500 at that game. Yes.
Oh man. Was there anything else for Square Enix?
The Square Enix. That was pretty much all the points I wanted to hit.
Okay. What's next up then, Joe? Where do you want to go?
Let's talk Bethesda.
Oh, you mean
right.
Microsoft and Bethesda?
Yeah, Microsoft, Bethesda.
That still feels weird to hear like Bethesda being owned by Microsoft now. It's so weird,
Makes sense to me because I've been playing a lot of Bethesda games on Xbox anyway, so it's just natural to me.
I kind of have had to wonder if that was going to happen since EA has basically been participating in like a developer acquisition arms race for years. That it seems like Microsoft is making the jump to actually trying to emulate what EA does, but not be a crappy company like EA. So
well, and the thing is that after last console generation, Xbox kind of had to do something to make themselves a little bit more competitive with against PlayStation, because PS4 blew Xbox One completely out of the water with all of the exclusive games last generation.
Absolutely.
Xbox One really stumbled out of the gate when it came out, especially you remember all that stuff where they wanted to take away the ability to play used games.
Yeah.
Oh God, I remember that. There was such an uproar about that they literally changed it like 2 days later.
Yeah, the always online, the discless console.
Online.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was
that.
a shame
They
too.
really shot themselves in the foot.
And it's a shame too because the system was actually more powerful than the PS4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think traditionally Xbox systems have been slightly more powerful than the PlayStation counterparts.
They just shot themselves in the foot with like, oh yeah, well it's going to be on all the time. Okay, well not every part of the country or the world has a stable internet connection all the time. So what are you going to do? Turn on your Xbox and like, oh, the internet signal's not strong. I'm sorry. Well, come back to us when your internet's working.
Yeah, true.
Oh my God. But I'm glad to see them getting some more exclusives now, because at least for a while the only exclusive that was worth on Xbox was Halo, which is, mind you, a big thing. It's one of the main reasons I'm still an Xbox person to this day is because of Halo.
Yeah,
so
Xbox has done a lot to turn their reputation around after the Xbox One. The Series X is off to a good start, even though most people
can't find them.
Can't buy one right now, myself included.
Same.
They're doing a lot of stuff to help players out, like the that backwards compatibility. That's awesome. The way they're doing that. They're even going back and touching up old games, so if you play them on the new hardware, they actually look a little bit better. That's great that they're treating their fans like that. Sony definitely needs to catch up in that respect.
I agree. I think I alluded to this before, and I said this is probably one of the smoothest transitions across generations, and in large part thanks to what Xbox has been doing with the concept of like smart delivery. In years past, it would have been, oh, okay, well here's the version of Cyberpunk 2077 for the Xbox One, and if you want it for the Xbox Series X, you got to buy that version too. They did a really smart thing in saying, okay, you buy one, you've got it for both.
Yeah, that's smart delivery, right? I think that's the program. Yeah.
Yep. So. Which is fantastic. Now, if they could only do that across like the Xbox and PC, that'd be fantastic. So that'd be really cool if they could do something like that too. But yeah,
what did you think about Bethesda, Joe?
I'm really interested to see more about Starfield. I was kind of disappointed that
Same.
they
Yeah.
didn't give any gameplay. It was just the cinematic, and they announced the release date, which is funnily enough 11 years after like to the day, 11
I
years
saw that. Yeah,
after
11
Skyrim.
22.
Yeah, 11 days after Skyrim came out.
No, Skyrim was released on
wait.
11/11/11.
Oh wait, no, you're right. I'm thinking 22 as the day. Yeah, you're right. Yep, you're
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah,
jokes on you. Xbox is actually going to change the calendar, so it's 22, 22, 22.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, so yeah, it is yeah, exactly on the money.
So
that's cool though. I mean, like if it turns out to be like, I say this with having had 3 weeks of experience with Skyrim, but if it turns out to be Skyrim in space, basically with like a slight Star Warsy kind of feel, I'm gonna be ecstatic.
It's funny that you choose those words exactly because after they revealed that trailer,
Yep, I know exactly what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
yeah, well, I know Todd Howard and someone else from Bethesda were talking about how they described the game, and they said it was like Skyrim in space, and they also said it was like a Han Solo simulator.
Yep. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I hope that you actually get to like pilot your ship between planets. That would be great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
But
surprised. That whole cinematic was about someone getting in the cockpit of a ship.
oh my god, I love flying spaceships.
I just hope it's not.
We know.
I just hope it's not like traveling
Like
around like in like Mass Effect or in Outer Worlds where it's just you just select where you're gonna go.
Well,
and then you go
I
there.
mean, let's be honest. With the Mass Effect thing itself, traveling from planet to planet was, in essence, just a mini map on the galaxy map. It would be nice to be able to
Yeah, it
travel
was a
from like,
menu.
yeah, essentially. I mean, it would be nice to be able to fly from planet to planet, but games that have tried to do that in the past, it either is, it's too big, or it's an on rails thing from one planet to another. So I hope that they give you the ability to like go around like, oh, here's a derelict asteroid. There's an asteroid with a derelict base on it. I want to go explore that and see what kind of weapons I find there. You know?
Do you think Starfield's gonna have alien races, or do you think it's gonna have a more terrestrial feel to it?
Oh, I feel like it kind of needs to give
It does. It needs to have alien races in it because
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Yeah, I certainly hope that that's the case. It already looks like there's going to be kind of like a big mech kind of presence to it. With like, literally I'm looking at the picture of it right now, and just looking at the actual like the picture of it itself, not the game, but what they've showed for like a background, it is a takeoff of like A New Hope's original poster, the way it looks, like the art style. Like I kid you not. And
It does look like that. Yeah, with the characters and like the kind of airbrush look to it.
Yep. So I'm really hoping that like that's kind of how they go, and that like you have like droids, or, that are you can interact with as well, that are a big part of it. So if they're saying this is Todd Howard here we're talking about. So
take everything.
Cue the Fleetwood Mac Little Lies tune, but at the same time, if they're saying and they're describing this as a Han Solo simulator, you better sign me up yesterday. So
instead of the courier, you're the smuggler in this game, I guess.
Hey, I'm completely cool with that. I just as usual, we have no use for smugglers who drop their cargo at the first time in Imperial
Please
cruiser.
tell
But
me
that's
the
neither here
main
nor there.
antagonist is voiced by Matthew Perry.
Wait, what? I don't know how to feel about that.
It's a reference to the game that you haven't played yet.
I know. Why don't they get like somebody like out of left field, like I don't know, get like Matthew McConaughey to voice the main character or something?
I wouldn't be
Interstellar
surprised.
Simulator. You can actually choose your gender in Starfield. The male is voiced by Matthew Perry, and the female is voiced by Courtney Cox.
Oh my god!
It's just a Friends reunion.
Friends reunion on HBO Max.
The droid is voiced by Matthew Schwimmer.
David
Schwimmer.
I'm sorry, David Schwimmer.
We were on a break.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I want to see alien races. For years I've pondered what it would be like if Bethesda approached sci-fi in a more traditional spacefaring sense compared to like Fallout, which is a more unique take on sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see what they do with that.
I'm kind of surprised it took them this long to even take that step, honestly. Because it's like you can do almost anything. Like there's certain tropes you have to abide by with space stuff, and this looks to be that it's more on the it looks to be more on like the actual like more realistic tech side than kind of like the sci-fi fantasy side, the way Star Wars is. So I
Yeah,
almost
which is why I'm
imagine.
curious if they're gonna put aliens in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. I mean, just looking at like the ship designs and looking at the droid designs, it kind of looks like a slight mix of the two concepts. Like the ship itself kind of gives me a little bit more of a I wouldn't say Star Trekky kind of vibe to it. It actually almost kind of reminds me of like the ship from the Outer Worlds a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I
In
was
that
thinking.
it has like that retro like 40s 50s ish kind of feel to it. But just looking at the droid or the robot the way they're showing here, that definitely gives off some Star Wars kind of vibes to it. So
Now, did you guys see this? Apparently, towards the end of the teaser, when they show the dashboard of the ship, if you look on the side of the dashboard, there's an etching, and people have zoomed in on that, and they think it looks like a map, and they think it could
let
be
me
a
take a look.
teaser for Elder Scrolls 6.
All right, let me take a look.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna try
I
and
read an
get it
article
up
about
on
it.
stream. Actually, hang on one sec.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you zoom in on it, it does kind of look like it looks a little bit too intricate to be just a scratch that they put on there to make the
Mm-hmm.
dashboard seem more detailed.
Oh,
But
let's see
somebody
here.
zoomed in and compared it to a piece of the map from the Elder Scrolls world, specifically the more like western side, like
Yeah,
the
I'm kind of looking at it right now. I'm actually looking at a Polygon article about it right this second, and yeah, it kind of does look like a map actually.
yeah, like
Yeah,
it
that
could be potentially alluding to Elder Scrolls 6 being set in like Hammerfell or the Red Guard's home.
oh yeah, the Alakir Desert. Is that
Yeah,
is that their home?
that
Yeah,
kind of environment. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Well, somebody's actually showing it with like a book that came with like the collector's edition of
Yeah, I think
Oblivion.
that might be the same article
Mhm.
that I found. I actually have that collector's edition of
Yeah,
Oblivion. Yeah,
gotcha. It's
that
kind of cool because
map
look,
of
I'm like, it's like
uh
looking at ESO again.
yeah, that map that came in the collector's edition hung in my bedroom as a kid for so long.
I
Oh
don't
my
know. I
god,
don't
how
see
long
it.
ago did
It
that game
it.
come out? 2010, 2009?
Somewhere around then.
Oh my god. Yeah, so I mean, just looking at it, it's like
I
it
don't
kind of
know
looks like
here.
it a little bit.
I don't know. Kind
Yeah,
of
what do you guys think? Is it a scratch or is it a map?
It looks too obtuse to be a scratch.
it doesn't really look like anything. I'm gonna be honest. It just looks like a blob. I don't know. I think it's a big old stretch to say it's a hint at the. I'll
I mean,
also
it
put
kind
the link to this Polygon article in the description and let the fans decide. But I don't know. It
it's
just
kind
doesn't
of
look like
tough to
anything.
yeah, I mean, it's look, it's E3. Everybody loves to absolutely go nuts about like looking over every little thing.
Of course.
But if they like to do something like that, that's kind of cool. I'd like to see more about the game and see what they're going to do with it. And with it being only about a year and a half away, that's really kind of cool. It'll be something worthwhile to look forward to, and hopefully something I can sink more of my life into, as Skyrim has already evidenced. So
Yeah, both Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6. Sadly we didn't see any Elder Scrolls 6 at all
I'm
from this year's conference. No, there was no Fable either. Those were the big
Yeah.
absences.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like holding my breath, or not really holding my breath on Fable because of just how absent Fable's been the last 10 years at least. Or
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think that was still like a franchise that was
It's
they
been
still
dormant.
alive at this
They
point.
teased it last year.
yeah,
Did
and
they? Okay.
they've been like putting stuff out for it, but it's nothing that's really stuck. I mean, the last really big game that they put out was Fable 3, and that was like a dumbed down mishmash of a barely what you could barely call a game.
Yeah, I played that for the first time last summer actually because
Mhm.
after they announced the next game, even though it was just a teaser, I remembered, I played Fable 1 and 2 and I really liked them,
Yep.
but I never played 3. So I actually played through 3 for the first time last year, and yeah, it was kind of a disappointing game.
Mhm. Yeah, they basically took Fable 2 and gave it they gave it the Fallout 4 treatment
Oh, gotcha.
and dumbed it down too much.
Yeah, I could see that definitely being a disappointment. No two ways about it.
Yeah, you could definitely see they had some ambitions for that game, but it fell apart in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, they were definitely, I'm hoping that, with franchises like that, that at least if they're going to bring it back, that they're at least going to take their time to get it right and not just rush it back for nostalgia money.
Yeah, I have hope in this one because it's like you said, it's been dormant for so long. They have enough
Mhm.
time. They don't have any expectations at this point because it's been so long since 3. 3 left a bad taste in people's mouths, so they have time to work on it and get it right this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. There were definitely a good bit of games that like both Xbox and Bethesda had. They actually probably had the one with like the biggest number of big titles being shown.
Yeah, they hit a home run, I think. They showed a lot of stuff at E3. They kept it heavy with the games. They didn't spend a whole lot of time, talking about boring crap. You mentioned Outer Worlds earlier.
I
They
did, yep.
Outer Worlds
And
announced-
2.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm
it's
so
kind of
excited.
cool. I like the first game because it very much dialed up like that that dystopian feel to some extent of like sci-fi, and decided to put like a corporate twist on it.
Yeah, you were telling me, I don't know if it was last episode or the one before, we were talking about Outer Worlds. You guys were saying I should play that since I enjoyed New Vegas.
Yes.
It's good.
It's
Yeah,
New Vegas
I-
in space.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I think,
It
and
was
I
a
almost
funny
hate,
trailer.
I almost hate to say this, Joe, and I know you're gonna hate me for saying this. I think I like the Outer Worlds. If it's New Vegas in space, it's the setting.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, that's just me. I like that versus the post-apocalyptic thing, but it's just kind of funny too because like the trailer itself was literally just a meme-filled commentary on the trailer itself.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a very self-aware
Meta.
trailer.
And that's the cool part because the game itself doesn't like some of the stuff is fairly serious that goes on in the game, but it also doesn't take itself seriously. It has like enough awareness to kind of laugh at the absurdity. Like the slogan for Spacer's Choice, one of the big corporations. It's not the best choice. It's Spacer's Choice.
Mhm.
Like, what the hell company is going to say this isn't the best choice, but it's the only one you have? So,
Yeah,
it's that kind of stuff that was kind of
that's
cool.
good. That's always that's the making of a good game when it's always nice to see when they can make it serious but also have goofy funny stuff in there to make you laugh.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like last week we were talking about Yakuza. It
Mhm.
definitely has that kind of feel to it, that series where it can be very serious
And then you can beat people with a bike rack.
heartfelt. Yeah, and then you can beat people with obnoxious things that you find on the street. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I gotta finish up the first one. I played a lot of it and spent a lot of time exploring it. That was my game of choice over the winter break. So on Joe's recommendation, and it was a good recommendation. So
Yeah, I need to catch up on that one.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
a shame
check it
because
out.
it was a shame too because that game, like, it feels like to me that the game just came out, but then I realized that's because it was out on the Epic Store for a year before it came out on Steam, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully they won't be pulling the same crap this time.
Yeah,
that was really kind
I
of
really hope not to, because I want to jump right into that the moment it gets released. And
that's one thing I didn't really hear from any companies this year. Like, yeah, this game's coming out exclusively only for this distribution service for a year's time. I'm really kind of hoping that goes away because that was really kind of a jerk move on a lot of those companies' parts.
yeah, and I mean, I understand why they did it, because they would get more revenue share, but the big name developers definitely don't need that extra split in revenue share. That was greedy on their part.
Yeah, I
course.
had to wait like an extra year to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so I could play that on my PS4, which is the system I used to play the first two.
Mhm.
Not that I needed to, but if I'm going to play the trilogy, I want to play it on the one system.
Yeah, and I mean, even think about like the Final Fantasy VII remake. How long is it going to take for that to come to anything else besides PlayStation? You know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would
But,
hold my breath on that, to be honest.
I know. I get that feeling myself. There were definitely some other, not like the biggest things out there, but some good announcements. Like one of the ones I was really looking forward to that they showed was Age of Empires 4.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to that game.
I thought you
like
would.
I absolutely. Oh yeah, I absolutely love the Age of Empires 2 from all the way back when, and even the definitive edition now. And this just feels like a natural progression along that. As a matter of fact, the funny part is that's probably one of those games that has had an extremely vibrant online community of players for close to 20 years now. Like there are several channels on YouTube that are popular that are actually dedicated to talking about like the actual the meta of playing that game, like how to tech up in certain ways, different strategies for it, and the game, for what seems to be just kind of like a standard medieval RTS, is really really good. It's kind of almost on the same levels of legendary as I guess like StarCraft. um and actually, I'm considering the setting, I kind of like it better than that myself personally, but it looks great. It looks very vibrant. The colors, everything looks really kind of cool, and it's nice to see they're making um, a big show of the whole Hundred Years War as kind of like a center point campaign. So that's going to be kind of cool to see.
I do remember watching that announcement. Yeah, it was really pretty. I like that graphical style with those little castles. I like seeing those knights jousting and clashing into each other on the field. That was cool.
Yeah, and that was kind of the way the original game felt. It's just that the graphics were just so old at that, at this point, that like it's nice to have something where it's not an isometric viewpoint. You can actually like turn it around and see it from different angles, and it doesn't look like just sprites.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, there was that. There was a whole bunch of other stuff too. I'm trying to see. Speaking of
Yes.
Yakuza, there's another Yakuza game coming out as
Well,
well.
did they announce another one? Because I think they just announced that they were putting the Yakuza games on Game Pass.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, available today with Game Pass on PC, cloud, and
Yeah, I
console.
think they're throwing all of them on Game Pass, and I think maybe this is just like the debut of Yakuza Like a Dragon coming out there, because that was a launch game for Series X.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, I think they were just bringing all those to Game Pass. That was the announcement there.
Gotcha.
Elden
But yeah,
Ring
there
looks
was,
pretty interesting.
Which one?
Elden Ring?
Elden Ring. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that was.
Oh yeah, that's
they
the George
showed
R. R.
that-
Martin one, right?
Yeah, they showed that off at the Summer Games Fest, which took place a few days before E3, but definitely still kind of counts
Was
for
that?
E3 as E3 news.
Did I see that right? That was him and Miyazaki.
Yeah, so
That's
Miyazaki, the creator
interesting.
of Dark Souls and Bloodborne,
Hmm.
yeah, combined with George R. R. Martin.
That's
So
really cool.
yeah, keep in mind this is not the same Miyazaki who does the Ghibli
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Don't get those
I
confused.
had to take a look at him like that can't be the same guy. And I
No,
looked at him
no,
like, okay, it's definitely not the same guy.
that would be funny though.
Different
like,
Miyazaki-san.
that'd be funny, a Ghibli style movie, but with like George R. R. Martin's twists on it.
Oh
So
my
like
god.
all your favorite, cute
Characters
cuddly,
are dying.
characters are getting decapitated and just dismembered and whatnot.
Oh
But
Jesus, they all get the Ned Stark treatment.
Oh,
yeah, Elden Ring though. Do you think you're gonna pick that one up, Joe?
yeah, definitely. I'm
I-
I'm all about fantasy medieval stuff, so count me in. And it's open world. I'll take it.
It looks like it's kind of following along the same principle as like the kind of like the Lord of the Rings style lore type of deal.
Mhm.
Although they're all like Norse mythology and all that kind of stuff that like Richard Wagner did with his operas ahead of time too. So it's all kind of cool to see like whenever a new game comes out in that style, it's always kind of cool to see like how big and epic it'll be because it lends itself well to that style.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I still need to catch up on the all those popular From Software games because I went through Demon Souls back in college, and I did Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2. I did the Demon Souls remaster. So next up for me would be Bloodborne. I always hear so many good things about it. Always glowing reviews about Bloodborne. So I'm hoping I can get to that maybe late summer.
Okay.
But I want to play Bloodborne in the near future.
Hey,
But, yeah, it's definitely going to be a cool game coming out.
let's see what else there was besides that. I mean, look, there's definitely the elephant in the room we'll be talking about, but there were some other things besides that as well.
Yeah,
There
before
was,
we get to the heavy hitters,
mhm.
there are some side games. Like another game that some little things caught my eye. Like, did you guys see the trailer for Party Animals?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it looks kind of interesting. It seems like it's a party game, and it's very cartoonish in its graphics, and you take control of these animals and stuff. And it seems like I don't know. They didn't give too much of a sense for the type of gameplay, but you'll be beating up on one another. It seems like a co-op party game, and that
Nice.
kind of stuff is always a good time. But that caught my eye. Being you can take control of a Welsh corgi and beat a gorilla over the head with a plunger.
Nice.
That could be funny.
It might just be that Pokemon clone I'm looking for.
I don't know if it's gonna scratch that itch, but
I
it would.
know, I'm just joking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
I
It'd be
would
a fun.
imagine it's probably gonna be like Fall Guys, maybe. I don't know.
It
Yeah.
looked similar with the physics of it. It looked similar.
Mhm.
Oh, that was a
To
popular
that
game for a
style.
while though.
Yeah, it
So,
definitely took off last year. Yeah,
Yeah,
another game that caught my eye. I think they had announced it before, I believe, but it's called The Ascent, and it
sounds
is
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, it's an action RPG. It's a twin stick shooter, and so top down kind of isometric view type of thing. But it looks really cool because it takes place in this cyberpunk world, and you can play co-op with people. So if that gets a physical release, I think I'll be picking that up. That
Okay.
looks like a cool game. I don't know if you guys saw anything about it.
I'm actually looking a
No.
little bit into it right now. It literally says like on the Xbox website, a vibrant cyberpunk world. I'm like, well, that at least makes one. So,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Did I say that?
I watched.
Did
Yeah, I
I do
watched
that?
Oh my god.
I watched some gameplay for it. I watched some people talk about it, and it seems cool. They said that one person said that it seems like it would be a natural fit if you called it a Blade Runner game, which is good
Oh,
for me
that's
to
cool.
hear because I was really expecting Cyberpunk 2077 to give me those vibes, but it gave me more of a Grand Theft Auto vibe. But I'd like to see them lean more into like a gritty, dark kind of cyberpunk atmosphere for it. But the game looks cool, and I want to get into more twin stick shooters. I think that's a really cool genre, and it looks fun, especially since you can play it co-op.
Cool. Yeah, that definitely looks kind of cool. Like that seems like definitely more on the traditional like cyberpunk type of genre.
Yeah, and
So,
the another game that caught my eye for having really beautiful graphics, this game called Replaced. It's a 2D platformer. It seems it has like these really nice pixel sprite graphics for the characters, but the backgrounds are more like 3D rendered.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay.
the graphics look gorgeous for it, and I just think it's really cool to mention because I've never been a fan of 2D platformers really. So I
Hmm.
think it's really cool how nowadays developers are coming out with these 2D platformers that actually catch my eye, for someone like me to actually be interested in these things. It's really nice to see, and
Yeah, and
if it does, yeah.
I'm
What were you
sorry,
gonna say?
Mark. No, that game kind of reminded me a bit of Inside. If you've ever seen that.
I've heard of it.
Uh
Yeah, I
huh.
don't know if it's the same developer or if it's related to that or not,
Yeah,
but I've
it,
heard
it
of
gave
that.
me those vibes where it felt like I was looking at a game of that like type or genre.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says it's I'm just looking at a whatchamacallit description right now. It says it's a 2.5D sci-fi retro futuristic action platformer where you play as Reach. I've heard that name before. No, but yeah, like that alternative, like dystopian 1980s type of feel. I mean, you talk about Blade Runner, that's you're talking about that, or even something that feels like vaguely kind of like the same aesthetic of like the first Terminator to some extent as well. A little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. But
So that's always a cool kind of setting. So
yeah, looked interesting to me. I mean, I want to learn more about it. If it doesn't have a heavy emphasis on platforming and it has more of an emphasis on the action part of
mhm.
things, and if it gets a physical release, I'll definitely be interested in picking that up. Just recently, earlier this year, I played a game called My Friend Pedro. Have you ever
Oh,
heard about this one?
It sounds
yeah.
like Napoleon Dynamite.
Far
I'm
from
kidding.
it, but it
I know,
is.
I know. Go
I
ahead.
because I finally got my physical copy from Limited Run Games, so I played through that. It's a really short, like 5 or 6 hour game, but it's really cool, and it's 2D. It's on a 2D plane with in a 3D world, but definitely more of an emphasis on the action than the platforming. So
Oh
I
yeah.
I really enjoyed my time playing that game. So if people can make more games like that, then they can draw me into the 2D platforming genre.
Well, I think part of it too is that like developers have come a long way in making sure that the platforming actually feels comfortable to play and not have that feeling of kind of janky with the platform detection, especially after watching your deal with trying to play like the original Crash Bandicoot games and how exact that has to be. I can
Yeah,
understand the beef
yeah.
with platformers.
Yeah, and I beat those games. I beat those 3 games in college. That was a
But
great
it definitely wasn't
experience.
without frustration dealing with the way the
No, no,
platforms would register.
definitely. They're just not relaxing games for me to play. I mean, if
No,
it's the kind of
especially the
deal where,
first one too. Yeah, the first one
yeah,
is like the Dark Souls of those three.
yeah, the first Crash Bandicoot was easily the hardest. They definitely got progressively easier out of the three,
Hmm.
but still, for someone like me who sucks at platformers, they were all relatively tough, especially that first one. But yeah, it's just a genre that stresses me out. But
No, I can understand.
yeah, if they can make games in that style that appeal to me, I'm all for it. I'm happy about it.
That's cool. Sounds good to me. And the aesthetic looks really cool with those kind of things too. It's
Yeah,
kind of
for
like,
sure.
kind of like dark and gritty, but still has a vibrant look to it.
Now I've never played really any of the Forza games, but Forza Horizon 5 looked really beautiful. Did you
Hmm.
guys see the footage for that?
Those
Yeah, I
games
mean,
always look
yeah,
fantastic.
that's what I was about to say. I mean, I picked up I forget which one it was, but it came out when the Xbox One was launched. I think it was like Forza 5 or Forza 6 or whatever it was.
I think like when the Xbox One first launched, I think that it might have been Horizon 2, or maybe you're talking about the actual Forza main series.
Yeah, like the main series Forza. Because
Okay,
I was
that
just
was
like, you
probably
know what?
5. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this game looks really pretty. It's been like years since I picked up a decent racing sim game,
Mhm.
and yeah, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. You know, I'm probably gonna pick up another Forza game at some point within the next couple of years, and this one might be it.
I think it said that the Series X version actually supports ray tracing, which no wonder it looks beautiful if that's the case.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gonna have like second to second weather changes.
Dude, that's cool though.
Yeah. Now, Joe, have you played any of the Horizon games?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I started to look into it after I saw Horizon 5, because I like the idea of having a Forza game that's more towards the arcade than the simulation style.
Hmm.
Agreed.
I mean I do play. I've been playing Gran Turismo for as long as I can remember,
Hmm.
so I'm no stranger to racing sims, but it's tough to find arcade style racers sometimes, and it seems like Forza Horizon might be a good bet. So I don't know, maybe that's for me. I don't know.
Hmm.
It always seems like, you either go with they're either super realistic, like, some of those games tend to be where it doesn't feel like you're playing something more arcadey, or your arcadey option is go play Mario Kart, and that's it. That's
Yeah,
literally like the only two.
I want something with actual like real cars. Like back in the day, I played a good amount of Need for Speed, the two
Hmm.
underground games, Need for Speed Carbon. I really enjoyed those, but I don't know if I feel like the Need for Speed series has tailed off since then.
Understandable. Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice because I think the beef I always had with some of the more realistic ones is that, like, if you wind up trying to, turn a tight corner too hard, you wind up, like, half spinning out as you're trying. I'm like, I get it, but after coming from playing Mario Kart as a kid, it's like, this is a little too realistic to be fun, you know?
Yeah, they're two totally completely different
That's the thing.
experiences. It's apples to oranges there. I mean, they're both racing, but such different brands.
Exactly. That was what kind of steered me away from the more realistic ones for a long time.
Yeah, just because you like Mario Kart does not, in any sense of the word, mean
Oh, of
you'll
course.
enjoy
Oh,
a racing sim.
absolutely. Like my two main games of like racing experience, literally like the Mario Kart series and Star Wars Pod Racer. So that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Before we get to the big one.
Well, there are a couple big ones, but there are also some smaller ones that I wanted to mention too, because they did announce a lot of things, and it's worth mentioning all the smaller titles as well.
Mhm.
And one thing that really caught my eye was it was called Ayuden Chronicle, and
All right.
it's a JRPG, and apparently it is the spiritual successor to the Suikoden series. And this was an RPG series that came out on the PS1 and PS2, and I've never played any of them, but it's one that I always hear good things about. So the fact that this game that's coming out is related to those games is a big deal, and it looked pretty cool. It has really nice sprite art, looks kind of like Octopath Traveler with the art style.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I'm looking at one of the one of the older. Oh no, the new one. Is it Eden Chronicle Rising? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I think there's another one called like the 100 Heroes or something.
That's beautiful looking.
It looks really striking. I'm really interested in it, and I think one of the big mechanics, even like in this game and with the Suikoden games, is recruiting characters to be on your team. I think those games are all known for being able to recruit a lot of characters that you could potentially play with.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool idea. You know, I played this one PS2 game, which is a total hidden gem. It's called Radiata Stories, and that was similar, where you could recruit tons of characters to use on your team. I always thought that was really cool. Another game that kind of scratches the Pokemon itch, because recruiting all these people feels kind of like catching Pokemon, and
Yeah,
it's something that propels you forward. It's something that you always want to do. So
that was something you were able to
yeah.
do in Final Fantasy Tactics as well. It wasn't just like your set team. You could recruit other people, couldn't you?
You got main characters as the game went on, but you could recruit like generic class characters and then
Okay,
level them up and kind of evolve them to different classes. So it definitely strikes a similar itch for sure.
fair enough. And that's always kind of cool too, because those kind of games are fun as well, because it at least allows you to build something the way you want to build it, instead of being like, here's the main characters you get, and that's all you get.
Yeah, yeah. So Ayuden Chronicle, definitely something to keep on the radar. I'm interested in that. But before we go on to like some of the bigger hitters, I also wanted to mention Microsoft Flight Simulator
Yeah.
because I noticed that. I wanted to make note of that because of you, Russ. Do you
I
play
seen
those
that.
games?
Never played any of them. And the reason why is because there wasn't nearly enough fighting in them with the aircraft. But they've always been known for being absolutely beautiful games.
Yeah, do you plan on ever playing those? Because it seems like it'd be like right up your alley, you know?
I'm not entirely sure, just given the fact that like I'm not a big fan of flying things just to fly them. I usually like to have some sort of like something I'm doing with the flying itself. That's why I mentioned like Ace Combat before,
Mm. Some
or
sort of
like always
direction you're
enjoy.
heading towards.
Yeah, like it's one thing to like actually just fly the stuff, but it's another thing to actually like be in the action while you're flying.
Mhm.
You know, this one I'd actually have to like watch what I'm doing and try not to scrape the ground with the bottom of my plane.
How
So
how does Flight Simulator work? Do you have like a mission? Like, do you have to fly from this part of the world to another, or do you just fly?
I I'm not sure honestly to be entirely honest.
Yeah, I
I've
have
never really
zero
watched the whole.
experience with it.
Yeah, I've never even really watched any gameplay of it, but I mean, as far as I know, with typically the simulator games, like there's always been Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then there was always Microsoft Train Simulator as well. Is that they really do a good job of giving you a very realistic feel of what it actually is like to actually, fly something or to drive something in to that extent. So that's kind of cool, and the games always look absolutely fantastic. So, but yeah,
Yeah, definitely. They look stunning. They look lifelike.
and that's definitely what you want. It's definitely for people who are more into get into like all the realistic aircraft
Yeah, like
and
the
for
enthusiasts.
yes, exactly.
Hmm.
So people who are actually like into all the different styles of like jets, biplanes, World War II planes, that kind of stuff, but flying them just to really fly them. And
All those kids who grew up with toy planes flying around in their backyard, pretending that they were real, and this is what they've grown up, and this is what they have now. This is
agreed. The
the new
ironic part,
experience.
the ironic part with a series like this is it always felt like a series that was meant for a much older demographic than what was typically given based off of the hardware that it was on. And this always felt like something that my grandfather would have loved to have done, or even like the train simulator one, because that kind of stuff was big interest of him, like all
Yeah, I
the World
remember
War II stuff.
you
And
said your grandfather had a huge train collection that you inherited.
he did, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. But at the same time, it was always kind of interesting because having basically grown up around some of that stuff, like the train thing was always kind of cool. It's a big moving piece of machinery. It's essentially a big boiler that has wheels, and those type of games I've often kicked around the idea of getting one of them just for like it would kind of be a game to kind of just not not chill out to, but something that could definitely be a very calming experience to play.
Could be
You know,
could be something you even do before bed or something.
Yeah.
like Universe
Yeah, except you
Simulator.
don't want to fall asleep while you're trying to drive a train. That won't go over well. But no, I think that's the thing about it, is that it's very telling that the series has still continued to this day, and it looks amazing. And for those that enjoy that kind of stuff, just amateur, being like an amateur pilot, um, that kind of stuff is really, really enticing to them. And a lot of it is the idea of flying in different environments, different weather situations, different wind speeds, all kinds of different stuff. Just as long as they don't turn it into like the flight on the Hudson simulator, I think we'll all be in good shape. So
Yeah. So aside from that, with the Xbox conference, is there anything else that might have like escaped the spotlight? Like Joe, did you notice anything that we haven't touched upon yet besides the two main ones we're about to get to?
Among Us. Among Us is getting a new update where they're adding on, I
oh,
think, a
you
new
would.
level, some new colors, new
I did
yeah,
see this.
yeah. So
I
Yeah.
often think it'd be kind of as kind of dated as the game is now, because like it was a super big thing like about what 9 months
Just
to a
last
year ago.
year, yeah.
Yeah, and the younger gaming community tends to kind of burn through these type of games real quickly because there's a whole meme culture that basically crops up around it. I always thought it'd be kind of fun to have a large group of people to play it together, just because it's a social dynamic.
Yeah,
So
you've mentioned this before, yeah.
yeah, we could definitely do it on maybe like a stream or something where we do like an Among Us game. I have it on PC, so I can stream it
oh my
from my
god,
PC, and you guys can play it on your phones. It'll be fucking great.
oh Jesus.
Jeez, does it play on Mac?
Um, I don't know. I'll look into it. It's
Okay.
like
I'm sure it has to by now.
you can buy it on your computer, but it's functionally the same as playing it on your phone, but it's free on your phone. So don't
Oh,
be
okay.
don't be like me and buy it on your PC and expect to play it with friends and then never play it with friends. Yeah,
I don't know anything about it.
Russ, it's kind of sus.
Yes. Great. Now I got to hear that terminology again.
Anything else, Joe? Or...
Um,
Didn't they announce that
We got
like
one.
that Skyrim was getting a BlackBerry edition?
Yeah, they might have
Bringing it to the
announced
Nokia brick.
I feel like there was
Nokia Brick.
something, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm kind of scrolling through the list of games announced from Microsoft and just seeing what else there was besides that that we might want to talk about. And I mean, there was some stuff added to like Elder Scrolls Online, getting like a enhanced console version, adding like Pirates of the Caribbean to Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah,
Right, yeah.
that
Sea of
was it.
Thieves
Yeah.
gets
Um,
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Fallout 76 getting an update as well, and that's fine and all, but they kind of the bed was made as it was when that game came out. Looks like something like Doom Eternal is getting a next gen update fairly soon. Far Cry 6, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, which was also touched upon at the Ubisoft conference. Yeah, I've
Mm-hmm. I've
um
never played the series personally.
yeah, I think I played like a few hours of Far Cry 2 because it was
Mm-hmm.
given to me, and I actually played Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which was like the spin-off game of Far Cry 3 that was just a whole riff on 80s music and electronica and like 80s movie culture, but
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy it. The best part of that game was the music, which is the reason that got me interested in it in the first place. But yeah, I don't know. Far Cry isn't a series I plan on diving into. I'm as you may have guessed by now. I'm just not a big Ubisoft fan.
Mm.
That's fair. I can understand that,
Yeah, I
especially
mean,
with like the way they treated the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah,
so,
I don't want to go into it right now.
I gotcha.
Maybe in a future day. But yeah,
Definitely.
I'm not too big on Ubisoft.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there was also, we alluded to the remaster of Diablo 2.
Yeah,
It looks like it's coming to PC, Series X and S, and Xbox One on September 23rd, so very soon.
yeah, I want to play that. Joe, did you ever play Diablo?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
Definitely worth it.
I played
So,
Diablo 3. That was my first foray into it. I thought it was cool. It didn't keep me hooked enough to play it for years and years the same way people play Diablo 2, but I have expectations for the second game and the remaster. That's definitely gonna be a purchase for me.
And let's see here. I think another smaller one that we didn't get a chance to touch on. I don't know if any of you guys ever played this because I haven't. Um, but there was also launch date shown for Psychonauts 2.
Oh,
I
right.
I've
That's
never
been
played
one
them
people have
personally.
been wanting for a long time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I never played the original Psychonauts, but I hear great things.
Same, same. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the majority of the majority of the games before I guess we get to the two big ones, or was there another one besides the two big ones you wanted to talk about?
No,
Madden 22 released their cover art. They're putting Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes on it.
yeah. So
They
anyway,
put both of them?
Battlefield 2042.
Like Tom Brady needs to be on anything else important. I
Tom
mean, he
Brady's
literally
been
went
in 20 Madden games, Russell.
I know,
let's
and
play. Let's put Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes in Battlefield 2042 and
see how they fare.
sniped in the face.
They get tornadoed.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's jump into Battlefield. That
Yeah.
it looks great.
Oh, absolutely. Like it was interesting to just see what they were showing because it gives off the Battlefield 4 vibes, just like obviously more advanced past there. But then like when they showed the tornado and like somebody's Pidgeot used Gust and somebody has like a flying squirrel suit on. So, and it's interesting because the game looks fantastic. And this is one of the first games that's going to actually allow up to 128 players altogether, right?
Yeah, but just on the Series
The new
XS
yep.
and PS5, yeah. Which is
Hmm.
why I was saying before, I want that console before that game comes out so I can experience
Agreed.
that.
Agreed. But
Yeah, but
go ahead.
here's the weird thing though, because they're touting these maps that are bigger than ever, these super massive maps, and I'm thinking to
Hmm.
myself, wait a minute, if they keep making the maps bigger and they
Hmm.
keep upping the player count,
Isn't that going to be the same experience?
yeah, that's like personally, what I want to see is similarly sized maps, but make them more intricate to allow for more close quarters skirmishes, and then up the player count so it's more chaotic, like a real war zone.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I found kind of lacking about Battlefield 5 itself was that, they made these huge maps, and if you get killed, because the time to kill was pretty quick in that game, you had to like heft it across the entire map again before you even get back into it. And if they're gonna add more players into it, that's fine, but you don't need to make the maps that much bigger at all.
No, no, I'm sure they're gonna do well with it, and they're gonna make solid maps. But
Hmm.
it would be cool to see maps that don't push the envelope, aren't of this revolutionary size. Give us the same kind of size we're used to, but let
Hmm.
us experience that with 128 players
Yeah,
on it.
just make it
I
more
want to see,
chaotic.
yeah, I want to see what that looks like, and just structure the map in a way so it's not just you going into a meat grinder every time you turn down a hallway.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and that was always one of my issues with some of the way Battlefield's gameplay tends to kind of work out is because you it usually winds up being something where you either run personally into the meat grinder or you wind up having like a small group of people facing a slightly larger group of people, and that's about the biggest like large group gameplay you get in a game
Yeah,
like that, and the rest of it is you spending time running around empty space until you find the next
yeah, or
person.
driving around. There are definitely times when you're playing Battlefield and you see no one for a minute or two, and
Yeah.
if they want to go for a true war zone experience, not like I've ever served myself, but
Hmm.
that experience of being on the front lines in a battle,
Hmm.
you would think that they would want to make it a push to have more players on a closer quarters kind of area.
Exactly. I would like it to feel more like a battlefield, not like a search and destroy type of situation.
Yeah. So
And
yeah.
that'll be cool. I mean, they showed a pretty new looking like weapon customization. I think you mentioned that you can actually customize in real time in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can customize on the fly. You can swap out in and out of your parts. Joe, did you play Battlefield with us? I can't remember. Do you like that series?
No, the only one that I've played was Battlefield 1, and I've only played through the campaign of it because I cannot stand those massive like multiplayer battle maps. I just
Mm.
Really?
yeah, no, like the thing that kind of like really wore me thin on it was, believe it or not, uh Battlefield. or not Battlefield, Star Wars Battlefront. You know, because
Was
like I just didn't really like those big maps and just sprinting across the map only to die
and have to do it
and
again.
have to do it again. Yeah, and
Mhm.
and like in playing in like Call of Duty, like the recent release of Modern Warfare a couple years back, I didn't like playing on these big maps because it's not fun running to go get yourself killed and then to run again.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel similarly, and that definitely it sucks when that happens in Battlefield. I used to dislike it more. I have kind of warmed up to it a bit because in the later games you can spawn on your squad mates, and if you're playing something like Conquest, you can spawn near the point, so you don't have to go too far to find some action unless you're maybe getting in a car and driving off to a new point to take it. Then maybe it'll you'll spend some time just kind of traveling
Mm-hmm.
and not doing
Agreed.
a whole lot. But I do see where you're coming from. It can be a turn off.
Yeah, they need to do
I
it like they did with Battlefront 2 Classic, where the maps are like medium sized ish,
hmm
but you just spawn on the
and
control
fixed.
points.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. That was one of the things I always kind of liked about the original Battlefront that, was obviously borrowed from the original Battlefield games, if I remember correctly, was that like the maps weren't huge, but you could still have like 64 players on them,
Mhm.
at least in the PC version later on, I think.
Yes, you could have
But
32 men per team on the PC.
and the thing is that like, you know, it was chaotic, but you were never spending time hiking it across the map only to find some random person who snipes you from like a hole in the wall, and then you have to do it all over again. Hence my very well justified, in my opinion, vitriol towards snipers, but it is what it is.
Bus
That's
does not
that's
like snipers.
that's a story for another day. And you know what? Speaking of which, didn't you guys tell me that pretty much every class can have access to every type of weapon? Which means now
Yep.
the legendary OP medic class in Battlefield. And if you've ever played a Battlefield game, you know that medics seem to get the best of the lot, with the exception of going up against tanks, of which people still complain about that too. Um, so now you can have a medic with a sniper. So what you're telling me is not only will I not get picked up, but that person is not going to push the objective either.
That medic could very well be 200 meters away with a sniper rifle behind a bunker.
I'm pretty sure that it's like somewhere against the Hippocratic Oath. Like you're actually supposed to like, get out there and help people, not be like, I'll get there in about, 5-10 days. I'm still gonna take somebody's head off with
No,
the
no,
sniper
no. That's
first.
definitely part of medical school. You learn how to patch people up on the battlefield, and you also
hmm
learn how to snipe people from a football field away.
I know you can't see it right now, but I'm doing like the Bob Newhart deadpan face because that's how I feel about this. So
Yeah, but that aside, Battlefield 2042, it does look cool, and I like that they're introducing these specialists instead of
yes, hmm
traditional classes. And
like there's
there's
what
nothing
like 11 different classes or something
well,
like
no,
that.
no, no. It seems like so there's going to be, I think at the start there might be 11 of these specialists,
hmm
but they all fall under your typical categories that you would expect from your typical battlefield, your four classes, like your
Like
assault,
assault, support,
support
medic, and
medic, and
yeah.
recon, that kind of
hmm
thing. Yeah, so instead of picking one of the four like usual, I'm glad that they're switching it up and you actually play as a character, probably due to the popularity of like battle royales like Apex Legends, which is another EA published game,
hmm
and probably like the operators from Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So I think maybe they're taking a hint there, but yeah, you actually get to play as these characters, and they have their own roles and their own special abilities, and I'm down with that.
I would definitely love to see like I think we had a slight inkling of this in Battlefield 5, where like each of the different classes could have like a role that afforded them separate bonuses basically.
Mhm.
Like for example, like if you were a support class, which if you watch me play is apparently the only class that exists. Um is there's like the vehicle based,
Russ
but then
hates
there's
snipers. Russ loves support.
I do. That's exactly how I feel about it. There are there's like the machine gunner role, and then there's also like the vehicle buster role, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, or the vehicle fixer.
yeah.
And
They each
like
had their own special effects if you play them.
exactly, and if that's how they're gonna kind of put that together, that'd be cool. Like I would love to see I would love to see like a a support or an assault role that has a emphasis on like heavy emplacement weapons. That'd be kind of cool. Like I imagine it. The thing that popped in my head is like, wouldn't it be cool if you had like a class, like you could work with your squad and you had somebody who would bring in. Yes, I know this is going to be a Star Wars reference, but like like in Empire Strikes Back, where stormtroopers and Darth Vader chasing down like Han and Leia as they get into the Millennium Falcon, and that one stormtrooper brings in the heavy E-web blaster turret and puts it down to start firing at them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to have like a person on your squad who was like a heavy weapon emplacement specialist?
Yeah, I think there actually is. For you might have to go back and watch the gameplay that they showed off, but I think
Mm-hmm.
because they did talk about some of the specialists, and I think one guy can actually deploy an automatic turret,
Mm-hmm.
which is something I've seen in plenty of games, characters that have that ability. But
Mm-hmm.
that might be what you're looking for, someone who can do that. But they talked about some of them. Like one guy has a grappling hook, so he can use that to get around. Um, one of the one of them is like more of a medic, and she has this like medic gun where like she like pretty much launches a syringe at someone, and
Oh,
she can bring people back to life from
didn't
long range.
Fallout do that already?
And
The
yeah,
syringe gun.
she has the syringer, but and there's another guy who has that squirrel suit, so if he
Mm-hmm.
gets caught up in the like in the freaking tornado, for example, he could use that suit to his advantage and fly around. But yeah, they're all gonna have their special abilities like that.
And that's the thing is they made a really big show of like the tornado thing, and I'm thinking to myself like, is this like somewhere in the future where are they making like a statement on climate change? Or are they saying somebody created a weather machine? Which one are they
No,
getting at
no,
here?
no. I think it's just I think that map specifically takes place in Dubai, and it just
Mm-hmm.
happens that a tornado is rolling through. There's no machine or any sort of commentary
I think
producing.
they actually had to like put out a statement that it wasn't a commentary on it, if I remember
Maybe,
correctly.
but yeah, I mean it's just kind of part of those like evolving maps and the levolution that they've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
How as you're playing the match, things change, and the thing that changes in this map happens to be a giant fucking tornado that comes after you. So you have to watch out for that.
No, that'd be kind of cool too, because like imagine like you know, imagine being down on the ground in a tank. Next thing you know, your tank is like around in a tornado, and you're like, there's another tank following you around the tornado, and you like blast them apart as they're following. Then you get like tossed halfway across the map. So I mean, that's kind of cool as a concept. I mean, Battlefield 1 and 5 didn't have a huge amount of like absolutely map altering destruction things available. Like you could bring like churches down or bring a building down in some of those games, but it never felt like it was anything on par with that one Battlefield 4 level where you could bring the entire skyscraper down.
Right. Yeah. Exactly what I was thinking of. You could just like take out those support pillars, and then
Mm-hmm.
that building would come crashing down, and that would significantly alter the map. So, yeah, and another map from 4, Parasail Storm, which was a tropical map where,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like the name implies, there's a storm that comes through at some point in the map, and it
Mm-hmm.
gets all dark and windy. So you have to kind of compete with the weather a little bit.
And that's kind of cool. Like I like that as a concept. If it drastically changes up the way everything is played. I would like to see, like, I don't know if it did this in Battlefield 4 or not, but did that actually like throw off the bullet physics too?
I can't confirm or deny that. I don't know.
Okay, I would hope like in a game like this that if there's a tornado and you shoot a gun that it's going to wildly throw your bullet off.
That'd be pretty crazy.
That'd be kind of cool though. I mean, because it's realistic. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's not going to like send it in some random other direction or back at you, but it's definitely
Cue,
going to throw it off.
cue the YouTubers who make videos of compilations of trick shots where they get these crazy kills by shooting into a tornado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be on the level of those people that like jumped out of their jets in like Battlefield 4 and rocketed the plane behind them and then jumped back in.
It's
Seems
funny
like
that you
that's a
mentioned that though,
feature.
because my cousin, my cousin, he's a part of an esports team, I guess you could say, and
Mm-hmm.
he manages the YouTube channel, and I guess it's his team or whatever. But he's always putting up like montage compilations of like trick shots and shit from like the people on his team. So, yeah,
That's wild.
yeah. So
That's pretty cool,
I'll
though.
put the link in the description, but the channel is Soar, SOAR or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the cinematic trailer that they showed before E3 actually did show a dude ejecting himself out of his jet, rocketing another jet, and then climbing back into his jet.
Yep.
So I'm sure
Yeah,
you can expect things like that.
yeah, and that's the thing is, I believe I actually read that like they basically took that straight from those highlight videos where people were doing that, kind of as like a nod to that in the cinematic trailer. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it's still going to be a difficult thing to pull off, but the game looks a lot of fun. I just hope that it's like Battlefield 4 with more futuristic elements and not like too far past that it doesn't feel grounded.
Yeah, it seems like it's gonna hit that nice stride there where it's near future, 20 years in the future.
Hmm.
So I don't think they're gonna push the boundaries outside of where the game's supposed to go.
Agreed. Agreed. And I guess that leaves us with the one big last game to talk about, the elephant in the room.
Oh yes,
Let's talk some Halo Infinite. Yep.
Yes, yes.
Oh man, I am excited for this game.
The thing that I like best about that announcement was the free-to-play multiplayer.
And the funny part is that, like, for a while, some of us kind of felt kind of ambivalent about the whole free-to-play multiplayer thing. Like, one, I do think it's a good thing that you have more people involved with it, because if it's free to play, that means you have a higher chance of winning a match because you can dunk on some people who don't know what they're doing. But that's not necessarily the main part of it. I think it's always a good
Bring
idea
on those
to
10-year-olds who have never played Halo before. Send them at me. Let me mow them down.
Halo's about to get real toxic, boys.
Oh my god. Oh, they know worse language than we do.
We're about to get some high-pitched video voice messages from some angry young kids.
It's just been nothing but reeing.
You jerk! All you did was grenade jump all over the map. No, I think it's a good thing because it's a smart move on their part to do that, because some of the games that become like the biggest cultural touchstones for video games in the past 5 years have been free to play multiplayer. Look at Warzone. I mean, that was a battle royale, mind you. Will this actually be like the first example of a non-battle royale that's actually multiplayer that's going to be free to play? From a large franchise.
I want to say no, because my first instinct is to name Overwatch, but I don't know for certain if that's free or not. Let me double check that before I actually.
I mean, if it is going to be that, like the first like non-battle royale multiplayer to be free, that's pretty impressive, all things considered. And Halo has a very iconic style of multiplayer compared to anything else. So
it'll definitely be popular. It'll definitely bring in
oh no, it's not free to play. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
It is or is not?
Is not free to play Overwatch.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Didn't they put Master Chief in Fortnite?
They did.
Yeah. I mentioned that when it happened that it really is. It's gonna introduce a whole new generation of players to that character. So when Halo Infinite comes out and the multiplayer is free to play, all those kids who are interested in that Master Chief character, they're going to have an opportunity to jump in at a low cost of $0. So
yeah,
it's going to introduce a lot of new fans, which is kind of a smart thing to do on their end. But
absolutely.
Even though it can be worrisome with the free to play mechanics, and there's always some concern there. But if they do it well, then
I'm hoping that I'm hoping that they handle any kind of monetization on the free to play side as something that's more based off of those who are already playing it free to begin with, rather than those who actually paid for the game. I'm hoping that's I have my doubts.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be any distinction between whether you're a paid player or a free to play player.
Okay.
As in terms of the monetization. But I know that all the microtransactions are going to be cosmetic based.
Yep.
Yeah. And I do know, they're going to put out battle passes for it, but they don't expire.
Yep,
And you
battle
can
pass
buy
for
them.
life.
Yeah, you can just buy them,
That's
and
cool.
you just decide where you want to, which battle pass you want to put your experience towards. So
Okay.
that's a cool idea. You don't have to feel pressured into playing at a certain time just because you want a certain skin or whatever.
Yeah, not like when we talked about Smite doing that a while back, where it's like
Yeah,
it shows things that were limited times, and it still shows. I'm like, what is the use of that other than to taunt somebody say your collection isn't complete?
yeah. Oh,
You know?
speaking of Smite though, it's quick aside here. I don't know if it was Summer Game Fest or E3, but they're actually bringing Stranger Things characters into Smite as skins. I thought that
Oh,
was pretty
good lord.
funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
But I mean,
Halo's looking good.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I mean, they showed some cool things as far as some of the multiplayer. They showed some of the vehicles, some weapons. I mean, we talked about this at length after they showed this, but the concept of like, you actually physically holding on to, objects or secondary items that you can use around the map. Um, or like, using the grappling hook to pick up a fusion coil that you then like throw in another vehicle if you're in a vehicle.
Yeah, that's cool. And I do kind of like that ability if you pick up a power up that you can just kind of pocket it for a while and you don't have to necessarily activate it as soon as you touch it.
Yeah.
Because there are times when I'm playing Halo and I go get invisibility, but
Mhm.
then I just don't happen to find anyone for the
Yeah,
next
and
30
you
seconds.
waste it. Yep.
And then it's wasted, yeah. Whereas if it's in your back pocket, then you can pop it whenever, it's the ideal time and you can sneak up on something.
Agreed.
So it's a cool idea.
And that's the thing is that like I'm glad that it kind of looks like they took the best concepts of what Halo 3 did with that and
It even
decided
looks
to.
more like Halo 3 right now with the visual style. Personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, it has that look to it. I'm looking at some of the stuff they're showing with like the armor customization, and after Reach and 4 did that, I'm like, okay, I get it. That definitely is going to be a thing they're doing, but the game has a very vibrant look to it. And I think the
Yeah.
last Halo game to have like that vibrant of a look was 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it could be the closest relative.
I just hope it doesn't feel quite as blocky and clunky as like the rollout of Halo 3 for MCC, but that's a story for another time.
I hope nothing about it is blocky or clunky. God, I mean, I hate to say it, but in some way, shape, or form, 343 has managed to disappoint with every Halo game they've released. Um,
Yeah,
but uh, I hope they turn things around, and this extra time that they've spent on Infinite was enough to get it in a place where everyone's happy.
yeah, I hope so too. And I'm looking forward to playing the multiplayer a lot. Um, but as always, it's going to be interesting playing the campaign because this is the first one that's going to be, it's I wouldn't say you're going to be hitting like quite the ludonarrative dissonance levels of open worldness, but this is like the first kind of semi open world Halo we've ever had. And I'm curious to see how that style works out because it's
Yeah, it
always
seems
been
like
objective
kind of
based.
sandboxy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be one of those ones where like as our group has playing multiplayer on Halo was always like, all right, let's stack on a bunch of skulls and let's see how we do trying to get through like Halo 3 with 4 of us, or God forbid going through Halo 2 on Legendary, especially when you get to High Charity, because
Gravebind.
yeah, Greymine, I'm sorry, yeah, but you're on High Charity, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I don't really want to hate my existence that much. Um, but at the same time, I think this game, just the vibe I get from it, it's just gonna be one of those ones where it's gonna be a lot of fun to like play with 3 of your friends and be able to explore as a group. And that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I think even in the showcase from last year, it showed Chief and that pilot crash landing into that valley. And I think their objective was to destroy a few AA batteries.
Hmm.
So if you're playing with a group, you could, kind of divvy it up and each person gets an AA battery to go up against and kind of divide and conquer.
Well, that's the cool part is that I'm hoping like it either incentivizes you to either do the Scooby Doo method and split up, or to actually roll as a team and because if I remember correctly, it actually showed the difficulty of certain areas on that map, didn't it?
I can't remember.
I remember seeing something like it actually showed like the typical like difficulty setting icons, like the ones for like easy, normal, heroic, and legendary. And it'd be kind of cool if it's like, all right, this one's going to be pretty heavy duty. It's got like the legendary symbol next to it. You know, maybe we should roll in as a team instead of trying to do it individually.
Oh, that would be cool. Huh.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, difficulty based on various objectives in a game
Hmm.
instead of one overarching difficulty setting for the whole game. Yeah,
I mean,
I'd be curious to see.
what I would definitely love to see is that like they encourage exploration by basically saying like you can roll in there, but it's gonna be rather difficult. But if you explore, you might find a cache of weapons that's gonna make your life and you're trying to finish that objective way easier. You know.
Yeah, agreed.
So I'm really hoping that like if they're going to make exploration a part of this, I'm hoping that they're going to make it worthwhile to explore. Yeah, maybe not quite on the level of something like the way Zelda handles it. Like I'll go explore and find like a whole bunch of pieces of heart so I can survive better. But I would definitely like it to be something like, oh, I found like this like this cache of like fuel rod guns and I need to take out like a heavy emplacement. And up until that point, all you found are small arms. So it'd be kind of cool to find something like that. And like, this is going to make my job way easier, but it also rewarded me for going around and exploring the area.
Yeah, that's probably the scope of what you'll see. I don't expect anything to be Zelda like, anything near like that, but definitely
No.
more open ended.
Yeah. I've talked for a while, Mark. Do you have anything else for the game itself?
Um, as far as new things that it's bringing, seems like some cool new guns. That brute skewer looks
Hmm.
pretty cool. It's like a brute rocket launcher, just seems to fire a big spear. That seems
Nice.
pretty cool. Uh, they're bringing back the chopper, of course, because brutes are heavily portrayed in this game.
Hmm.
The new Razorback vehicle, it's more of like a transport warthog. I don't think it
Hmm.
has a turret on it, but I think it seats four, and you can actually put items on the back of it and transport them around. Like you could put guns or map objectives or even fusion coils in
Hmm.
like your in the rack on the back of that truck, and then drive it around. So that opens up some opportunities.
I would love to do something like that where you basically wind up like stacking a few fusion coils on the back of the Razorback, and you use that to be like a mobile way of taking out like heavier vehicles um, instead of having to like run up towards it with a rocket launcher and hope you don't get blasted before you're able to hit it. You know?
You could load it up with fusion coils and then hop out of the driver's seat as it's like driving towards an enemy, and then
Throw it
your
at them.
Razorback collides with them and explodes.
Oh my god, I that would be
You
cool.
could use like a weapon like that.
See that kind of stuff, like I hope they take that into account because that would open up so many like different avenues for how to um solve things because I mean oftentimes in Halo even with some of the older games as well, it feels that like if the other team has a particular vehicle or particular weapon, there's only a few different ways to wind up getting rid of that, and it either means you have to like be crafty about like disabling it, like from Halo 3 onward with a plasma pistol, and then grenade them out of it. Or if it's prior to that, like you have to have a rocket launcher or a fuel rod cannon or a fuel rod gun or another
Jack
vehicle
the
of
vehicle.
that's the only other one.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, you have your options, but they're definitely introducing more
Hmm.
in this game, which is cool. I could see. Imagine you're playing Halo 3 and you're on Valhalla, and you have a Razorback,
Hmm.
and there's that race to the center of the map to pick up the Spartan
Hmm.
laser. Personally, I kind of suck with the Splazer, and I don't want
Same.
it taking up one of my two weapon slots.
Hmm.
So I would happily pitch that on the back of the Razorback and drive that away and give it to one of my teammates.
Yeah, I mean that's the I kind of feel the same way. I'm not great with that because it's like it's you have to wind it up essentially or let it spool up before you can fire it, and oftentimes I always wind up missing by like a few inches to the side.
Hmm.
So I can understand that, but yeah, that would be great to like take the Razorback out to the center, rush there, grab that, throw it on the back of the Razorback, and take it away from the enemy team.
Yeah.
So yeah,
As a whole, it's looking good. I'm excited about Halo Infinite now. I'm getting further away from being worried about it and more towards being excited for it. I really hope they give us a beta in the near future.
I hope so too.
Now,
Yeah.
will it have crossplay.
I
think
imagine
so.
so. Let me take a look. Let's see here. Okay, platforms Series X and S, Xbox One, Windows 10 PCs. Let me see if it actually
So
will
it will
support
be on
crossplay.
PC at
It will
launch.
be. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Support crossplay.
I mean, Master Chief Collection supports crossplay, so
Mm-hmm.
this might that might have been a test because that's something
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the more recent updates that they put in a Master Chief Collection that the crossplay functionality. So they might have just been testing the waters for Halo Infinite by doing that.
Yeah, because
Oh,
honestly, I would like to see more of these online multiplayer support it because we need more crossplay, even if it's just between Xbox and PC. Because I know there's going to be a lot of games now that aren't going to be included on the PlayStation. But yeah, like I'm all for crossplay because it just adds more to the player pool, you know?
so this is
Oh
actually
yeah.
kind of cool. I'm looking at it. It supports crossplay, but it also supports cross progression between Xbox and PC.
Okay, so you can just kind of switch platforms if you have it on both and keep the
Yeah,
same character.
Hmm.
yeah. That looks to be the way it's going to be.
Nice.
So it's
That's
probably
really
gonna
kind of cool.
be linked to your Microsoft account then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
that's
Which
how
which makes sense.
that's kind of how I think it works with MCC. You have a Microsoft account that you play on,
Hmm.
rather than like say like your Steam account and then your Xbox account.
Now I have to wonder if it's something where if you buy one of the versions of it, then you have the ability to use it on your PC as well. Um, I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but I would love to see something like that. Like, maybe one of the days we're playing something and I'd like to use my PC versus using my Xbox, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
True.
So that'd be
Yeah, it'd
kind
be
of
cool
cool.
to see.
It seems a little arbitrary to have cross progression, but I understand the concept behind it. Like, let's say you're going somewhere and you take your laptop with you, or like a Microsoft Surface or something. You want to play some Halo, but you don't want to take your Xbox with you. I could see something like that.
Oh,
Well,
that'd be true for cloud gaming.
Yep.
That'd be good.
I mean, if it has cross progression and if the multiplayer is free, then I don't see why that wouldn't be a thing, though.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of the whatchamacallit, the campaign.
Oh, yeah.
But I got you. No, you're right. That makes perfect sense then. Like it would be cool to have it like, you could play it at home on your Xbox, or you could like, download the multiplayer to your laptop and you could take that with you. So, that's pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah,
I,
that'd be killer.
Mm-hmm.
I like that as a concept. So, you know, I was bummed when they said they were pushing it back, but yeah, just like you, Mark, I'm feeling a little bit more hyped about it now.
Yeah. Yep. Looking forward to it. It can't come soon enough.
Yeah. And Joe, you better get it.
Don't worry, it's
Definitely.
free. I'm getting it.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yep, it's
Now,
free. It's
now,
got crossplay. I'll be there.
you know what else is going to be free? His complaining about it is going to be free. So
Oh no.
I don't like Halo, but I play it because I know you guys like it.
that's
Oh
okay.
no.
You can just stay in the back of the warthog turret for me and gun, and we'll all be good.
What's your problem with Halo? Why don't you like it?
Hmm.
How long do you have, Mark?
Well, no, I can keep it short. I don't like how sluggish it feels. If that kind of makes sense. It takes
No, I get it because you came from the Call of Duty side of it, and Call of Duty is a much quicker
yeah.
experience and time to kill type of situation than Halo.
Mhm.
I get that. That's
Yeah,
why I like Halo more.
that's
Yeah.
fair. Halo is less about like the speed and the twitch reflexes, and it has more kind of tactical gameplay.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
It also
And
has the
Not
absurdities too of like, oh, this guy's run through a cave. Let me shoot a rocket at him.
yeah, not that there's any, you know, uh, chain difference in legitimacy to those play styles, the Halo versus like your Call of Duty, but
mm,
Hmm.
I could definitely see it being a turnoff going from Call of Duty and being a fan of that style, and Halo probably feels slow to you.
yeah, it just doesn't feel very run and gunny, and that's kind of like my play style when I play those online shooters. So,
That's the great irony of it. There's a lot of run and gun in that game, depending on the map you're playing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of liken Halo as an FPS to Pokemon to some extent. Like they are definitely part of a genre, but they are kind of their own separate genre within that genre. Like Halo's an FPS, sure, but it's not like Call of Duty or like Battlefield. It's what kind of FPS is it? It's Halo. That's the only way you can describe it. Just like Pokemon's a JRPG. What kind of JRPG is it? It's Pokemon. That's
it's
that's
own
the only
thing.
way I kind of look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I can understand that. And for me, Halo was like my first FPS that I really became familiar with. So to me, it feels like home.
Yeah, definitely. Halo is one of the reasons why I play first person shooters to this day.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
didn't really like that, I could get the jump on somebody and like unload a full clip and then have them turn around and just take me out. That wasn't fun. I'm kind of trash at Halo.
I like that though. That pacing specifically, I think that's good because I actually fired up Modern Warfare for the first time in like a year. This is the reboot I'm talking about. I fired that up the other day for the first time in a long time, and it just reminded me how Call of Duty, it's like you see someone and you're dead. It's like whoever sees who first is the winner. But that's one of the reasons why I like Halo's combat more than the Call of Duty style, because even if you don't get the jump on someone and you don't have the upper hand, you still have a chance to actually win that fight.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's just not for me.
Oh, that's cool. But I'm glad that you at least, are willing to play with us.
Yeah,
so.
of course.
Yeah,
of
man.
Course.
Basically, you're a good sport like that, like I am with Modern Warfare. And I'm like, I'll play it, but I expect to lose handily.
Oh my god! Speaking of Modern Warfare, they have really just destroyed that game in the last year, because it's been about that long since I've played it, and oh man, the things that they've added to that game, it's like the way I was making fun of it the other day when I was playing, because I was playing with a couple of our friends, and I was just ripping on it. Like, Modern Warfare is like it's like the boyfriend in a shitty relationship who keeps cheating on his girlfriend. Like for years, he's just been mistreating this person, and just like like Modern Warfare, for example, was supposed to be the return to form.
Yep.
And this was supposed to be like Call of Duty getting it back to its military roots, and it started out that way. It was pretty good. I thought it was in good form.
And then Warzone happened.
They've added so much shit to it. That's why I make this comparison. It's like the boyfriend who like he cheated on his girl for so long, and then he said he was going to make things right. That was Modern Warfare coming out. But now he's back to his old ways in a big way. Because I logged in the other day, and I'm playing against horror movie villains. Like I'm shoulder to shoulder with Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like you got shit like Jigsaw running around in there. They have these like colorful tracer rounds where like when you hit someone, instead of like a cloud of blood coming out, you can like choose the color of your bullets now. So I was getting wrecked by this one guy who was hitting me with these yellow bullets. It looked like piss.
I remembered hearing this. I was in the chat for this the other night. Oh my god, I was dying.
Yeah, you started out, and Modern Warfare seemed really faithful, like it was gonna do us right, and it was gonna get back to like the original Modern Warfare beats. And now, a year later, it's just ridiculous. The main menu is all these explosions right now. They're adding freaking John McClane and
oh my god,
and Rambo to the game.
Jesus. You know what it is
They've
that
gone
happened
off
to
the
this?
rails.
Warzone for its time when it first came out was a pretty decent battle royale. But then they just went full on Fortnite with it, and now look what happened to the game.
Yeah, I'm not a big battle royale guy in general, but
I'm not either. But I mean, at least it didn't look that ridiculous when it first started, and it just went downhill from there. I'm like, can I just have Captain Price? I just want Captain Price. That's all I want. Put his face on the game.
Call of Duty's gotten ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's just
well, apparently it's what they think that we want, but maybe it's targeted more towards like the younger audience, and we're just kind of
it probably is. It reminds me of
that
that Simpsons thing where like you kids don't know what you want. And I'm like, I just want to play Modern Warfare. That's all. I don't want to have like tracer rounds coming out of a gun that's meant for a plane. So I mean,
Old man
ugh.
shakes fist at clouds.
Yeah,
Or
that's how I
rather,
feel
old
to some
man
extent.
shakes fist at piss-colored clouds.
Yeah, so that's the state of Call of Duty right now. But back to E3.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, that's the thing that we're
So
talking about.
yeah, do you guys
what's
have any
E3?
other games that you wanted to mention that have been talked about, over, even from Summer Games Fest? Anything over the last week? Or
Back for Blood looks great. I can't wait.
oh right, that's like the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead.
Yes, I can't wait. Looks so good.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Mhm.
Trying to
Trying
think
to
about anything else.
Yeah,
I
I
personally I
really
don't
can't
have
think of
any.
anything else.
Personally, I don't have any specific games to talk about, but uh, I will say that Sony was missed. Yeah, this year at this year's E3.
Mhm.
It's a shame, because you see Microsoft, Bethesda, they're coming out with a lot of cool information, and then Nintendo has their thing. It's a real shame that Sony didn't participate. I don't know if it's like a money thing. I don't know how they're doing it. Like, do they think it's just like too expensive to participate in E3 and it's not worth the resources? But I really wish they would, change that and go back to actually showing it up at E3.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think part of it is I think sometimes companies view participating in E3 as kind of an arms race that they don't necessarily want to get involved in sometimes. Because Nintendo was like one of the first major companies to actually like ditch actually being at E3 in favor of doing the direct format.
Yeah,
But
they've
as
been
you could
doing
see,
that for a long time.
yeah, they've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years now. I want to say, give or take. And the unfortunate part of it is that for them, it's always been about like the Sony and the Microsoft shows, because they were the two bigger console companies for more for older gamers. Nintendo was always kind of like the third wheel, but they did their own thing. So
Yeah, it's kind of like Nintendo does their own thing, and then you have PlayStation and Xbox that compete for like the higher end games.
yeah, and then you have the developers. You always had like EA, Bethesda, and Ubisoft and Square Enix that had their own things as well. So, I mean, I get the feeling, with Sony, they either didn't see it as worthwhile being there this year for it at the same time, or decided maybe it was better for them to showcase their stuff at a separate time where it wouldn't get drowned out in the large news rush from E3. Because, I mean, as we've even talked about tonight, you know, even talking about ones that we paid attention to, there are things we forgot about because there's just such a like an absolute just crash of news that
Mhm.
comes at you in like a 2 to 3 day span. Initially, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this game. Oh wait, they also mentioned this game, and I forget the other one, but yeah, that
Yeah,
you know, it has that feel to it.
yeah, it's
And
sensory overload. So
thank
things
you,
could get
that's the term
lost.
I'm looking for.
Things could get a lot like slip between the cracks.
Yep.
Of course. And I have to wonder if Sony decided they would rather wait because they're not the only ones. EA did that as well. I think they're waiting. Um,
I
and
think
they're
yeah,
I
I
think
think
they're
EA is doing something next month.
yeah. So I mean, I kind of get the feeling that sometimes they decided to drop back 10 and punt so they could get sole attention on theirs when they show it.
Yeah,
So
maybe they're also waiting to release more news around like TGS or some other sort of conference. But when they're not there though, you
it
can't
feels kind
help
of empty.
you can't help but feel like they're the snobby kid on the block who thinks they're too good to play with the rest of the neighborhood rabble. So they stay inside and to themselves,
Hmm.
and that's a shame to see because even if it is sensory overload, I like that because for me E3 is like Christmas in June. I get all this
Yeah.
gaming news, and me, I'm a PlayStation guy.
Yeah.
Out of the big three, PlayStation is my preference.
Hmm.
So I really want to see them announce things there. I want to see what they have to say. So it's a real shame that they don't show up anymore.
Agreed. And I think I think you kind of put it a good way when you said like it kind of feels like the snobby kid who feels like they're too good to be around everybody else.
Yeah.
But the only impression it gives off is that either A, they think they're too good, or B, they don't have enough to show to to stand up to the other conferences. And I think
Either way, it kind
unfortunately
of reflects poorly.
it does. And I think I almost hate to say it, but I think what you're partially seeing is I think you're starting to see kind of the fracturing and splintering of E3 as a concept.
Well,
Um,
that's a good segue to the next point I wanted to make. And what do you think the future is for these sort of conferences? Do you think E3 is necessary? Do you think that there shouldn't be this one centralized hub for game news? Should it be spread out? Should there be an E3, but it should all be digital? What do you guys think? Do you think conferences need to stay at all?
you know,
Um,
do you want to go ahead, Joe? I'll go after you.
you know, like the thing is, I I am kind of like on the fence with it because I like it as a concept because it is like that point in the middle of the year where you get to look forward to. You know, it's the point where it's like, oh wow, it's June, it's E3 month. You know, but then I
Mhm.
think back to like, excuse me, the early to mid 2000s, uh, when you could turn on G4 and instead of
Yep.
seeing reruns of Cops, there'd be like shows like what was the show with the guy and the girl, and they would like just talk about the games for like a half an hour, and they'd show like
Was that
gameplay.
Attack of the Show?
Yeah, I think
Well, no, not
was that
Attack of the
Attack
Show. There was something else. I forget what it was.
Oh, I don't remember.
Fuck.
It's been a long
But
time since then.
but yeah, no, I think it was along the same vein here. Let me look it up real quick. G4 games show X Play
X
Okay,
where
Play.
they
yeah, I
would
remember that.
they would take a half hour and just showcase games that were coming out or games that recently just came out, and that was one of the reasons why I would watch G4, you know. And we need maybe we do need E3, but maybe we don't. But I I I I would like to see more of like stuff like X Play. You know, it's probably not a popular opinion out there, but you know, who knows?
No, that would definitely be cool to see. And I'm on the side of the camp that wants these types of conferences to stick around. I mean, I know, yeah, you can probably do something similar and make it all all digital and all online, and that's fine. I mean, you don't. I guess I could give them that. They wouldn't need to have this big showing at a convention center. You know, they could go digital with the presentation, but personally, I like the way that it typically is, where they're at a convention center and you actually have real people there from the industry talking, and it gives a face to the industry and some of the people behind the games that we play. And sure, you can capture that online with digital events, and that can work. But I
But
like
it's not the
the
same.
yeah, I like
Yeah.
the personal aspect, and you know the crowd is there, and there's just a different kind of energy.
No,
And
you're
yeah,
exactly right. No, I think of yeah, I think of all like that, kind of like the legendary moments that have been in like E3 conferences in the past, like all the even stretching back to like the Reggie Fils-Aimé with the "My Body Is Ready" type of deal. There's that one, or even as recently as the "You're Breathtaking" from Keanu Reeves in relation to Cyberpunk,
right,
'You're
2 years ago.
breathtaking'.
Exactly, and the thing is that I look at the digital showcases and I'm like, there's nothing from this. They're just showing trailers and gameplay footage. I mean, here's the thing. I think the reason why companies like the digital showcases more is that they could completely control every aspect of it.
yeah, they can kind of prepackage it beforehand so that there are no blunders live on stage.
Exactly. But at the same time, because they've prepackaged the whole thing and they made sure there's no blunders, there's also no personality.
Yeah.
It's sterile.
Yes, exactly. Clinical, sterile is a good way to put it. Um, I would like them to stay. I kind of wish Nintendo had kept doing the in-person ones, but given the way their franchises are and what their niche is in comparison to both Microsoft and Sony, I can understand why they stick with it, and I really don't fault them too much because it's a totally different feel. But they, barring the circumstances this year, they've said they're returning next year. The mayor of LA actually said that in the opening part of E3, and I would certainly hope that both Microsoft and Sony will be there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's. I want to see that. And to Joe's point, it'd be nice to have just more content out there, more common exposure to game stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And before, in the past, you could rely on a channel like G4, which was pretty revolutionary for us to watch back then, because you
yeah,
just didn't get exposure to video games if you were watching cable TV.
yeah. The
You know,
closest
G
thing you got was like online articles or Game Informer.
Yeah, but even like before things were blowing up too much online, you had G4, but other than that, you had like some magazines to look forward to, like a subscription every month,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that was kind of your game news, and then you had E3. So I can see why they're sort of going more digital and going away from the physical E3 more and more.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you lose more and more personality that way. And sure, you can watch a Twitch stream for a bunch of different games. You can watch millions of YouTube videos about games and be totally entertained that way. But there's something to be said for the game conference as a whole.
I agree. I absolutely agree with what you're saying too, and it's kind of funny because I remember watching E3s in my late teenage years, like, '07, '08, '09, and watching them on TV. And I'm like, this is cool. I can actually, like, school's out. I can actually watch this now. And I would sit there and I watched it on TV. I didn't watch it on the internet. I watched it on TV because I knew that, I was getting the official streams from them and then I was getting the commentary afterwards.
Hmm.
And, I hate to say because this is probably isn't the right word for it, but to some extent, YouTube has kind of democratized the availability of E3 coverage, in which case you're really just looking for whoever or whatever channel that you typically go to see their take on it. But it was nice getting a chance to see like roundtable discussions. It was nice getting a chance to see a panel of people talk to developers, talk to, it felt more like a presentation than just a blurb about here's what we got coming up. And I think when you hit it you hit it the nail on the head, Mark, when you said it felt like Christmas in June,
Yes.
because that's exactly how E3 felt, growing up and through my 20s as well. It was like, I can't wait to see what E3 has on the docket this year, what they're going to announce. And at the same token, because of those conferences and wanting to make sure they got the crowd into it, I think you saw more announcements of games in development than you've seen in past few years. Because if you're doing something online, you know, chances are people already probably know games in pre-production or in production before you even have the online direct or the online showcase. So it kind of takes half the fun out of it, but you're right. I hope they go back to the conference. Um, the irony is also not lost on me that this kind of dates us a little bit, the way we feel about it.
Yeah, because you
Mhm.
could get into a conversation about how this is the way technology is moving in general and society, and moving further away from
In person.
physicality and
Hmm.
in-person events, and moving further towards digital.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do you can see that conversation on the horizon, definitely. But um, this is just a piece of that conversation, and I think it's a good reason why these things need to stick around. I think we have good points.
Mm.
No, you're right. I mean, I know eventually at some point in the future, it's even happening now. We're going to have a collective conversation, not just us, but society at large, about if there are things we deem more enjoyable to do as a group, even though they can be done easier doing them online.
Yeah,
Um, and I
and
think
cheaper
E3
online.
exactly, and I think E3 is a good example of something like that. Like
For
obviously,
sure.
look, you're never gonna you're never gonna get going to an in person sports game to go away. It's an experience. You go there, you go watch the game, you sit down, you watch, you have something to eat, you buy like a $15 drink. That's how it works.
Yeah,
Um,
you get your $10 Bud Light.
exactly. Um, even though you can watch it at home, but it's not the same experience. That's kind of that conversation we're having now is the conversation that you know channels with sports channels have had versus going to see a game in person. They've had that for the past 40 years, basically.
Yeah, and the rush that at least I get, the rush that I get when something like E3 is happening, it's like it's like you would go and talk to someone who is a huge concert goer and tell them, well, why don't you just listen to music on your phone?
It's not the same.
Yep.
They're completely different. Yeah.
Exactly. The excitement isn't there.
Right.
And no, you're exactly right. And I kind of feel the same way too. Like, it was always interesting to see like what they would show, what they would talk about, who they would bring on stage.
Mhm.
And look, current circumstances, obviously aside, because that's what forced it to be the way it was this year. I'm looking forward to
This is
next year.
definitely an outlier.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year, when they go back to being in person. And I hope Sony's not going to pull the "we're too good to be here" card. Um,
Yeah.
I would even love to see Nintendo decide, like, hey, this is kind of a special occasion. We're going back to in person. We'll at least do something in person, because that's what the Treehouse had been in years past.
Mhm.
Was, even though they had the direct online, they had the Treehouse in person at E3.
Just
So
to supplement it.
yeah, exactly. So I hope they all see the importance of it, because even though we can't be there unless you feel like casually flying out to California for a few days,
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah. Because I think for a lot of gamers, it's like a destination dream, like a vacation. Like
to
one
go to
day
E3. Yeah,
I'm gonna go to E3 because the three of us have never been there.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But if
I
it
mean,
goes all digital, I'm never gonna get to go.
it's like a once a year video game mecca, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Being able to get into that, and for a while there, for years, it was actually restricted. Only press people were able to get into it, basically press and people who worked in the industry. Then they opened it up to the public, like, what, 10, 15 years ago?
I'm not sure
And
the exact time frame, but yeah.
but yeah, at the same time, like, that's kind of the dream. Like, I'd love to go out to E3. It's probably not going to happen, but it'd be cool,
Hey, one day dialogue options is gonna get huge.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, that's the way to think
We're
about
gonna
it.
get
You're right.
invited to E3.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about E3 and had a chance to cover something that literally happened like 3 days ago.
Yeah, it's topical.
Well, it's still fresh.
Yeah, it is topical. So we definitely
Like, well,
got
yeah.
on top of this one. But yeah, did you guys have anything else to add at all to it, or are we looking at final thoughts here?
Pre-order the fridge.
Yeah,
You know,
fridge. The Xbox Series fridge coming out this holiday. Buy
Yep, absolutely. I can't wait to stock it with water bottles
it.
and or Mountain Dew game fuel. There we go.
Yeah, that's probably what they're
Totally
thinking.
non-sponsored.
Yeah, sponsorship options though, definitely. If you're listening and you're out there, yeah, definitely give me money, and I will say brought to you by Carl's Jr. 15 times in a row. Definitely, bring it on.
God, I love that movie.
Yeah, let me sell out real quick. Yeah.
You have to be in a position to sell out before you sell out. Or are you preempting the selling out by selling out before you could even sell out?
Ooh, that's meta selling out.
Ooh, that is true.
But yeah, those kind of were my closing thoughts about E3. We talked about the games and E3 and conferences as a whole. They're important to me. They're important to a lot of people, and I want them to stick around and stay strong.
Same.
Ditto.
All right. Well, I mean, Joe, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I guess that kind of draws us to a close, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for watching. I was Cobalt Cat. Joined
I was
by,
Ace X-Wing 88.
and that's
I am Marcamune.
yes, and we are Dialogue Options. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.